Bringen, ja. Ein bisschen Mesoines, you have crackers? I'll take that. I'm over the milk business. Thank you, sir. You're plus, you're plus. All the Chassidish people live in this neighborhood, on the hill. No problem. No problem. Have a seat. Thank you. What is your name? I've met you before.
Yeah, in 1383.
A lot of cameras. It's intimidating.
A year and a half ago, or 2 years, so that. Okay. I don't know which FABRENGEN we did, but I met you.
Thank you for coming.
A lot of cameras tonight. Wow.
You got to eat? FABRENGEN.
Rabbi Shulchan?
Ja.
Das one?
Dille?
Only Dille.
Water, thank you.
Yeah, bring him. Yeah. Come on. And I'll your classmate, no? From
Yeah,
what?
from a million years ago.
Classmate.
You're in the same kutza.
Yeah, but I remember did it no?
You went from Morristown, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
From the best Bacham, from the best of Bacham in Lubavitch.
Oh, that's
And I'm not from the best of Bacham in Lubavitch. Rabbi Gorelick, Paltiel. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol niyah b'dvarim.
Amen.
Chaim lebracha, Chaim everybody. Oh, Menachem. Chaim everybody. Chaim lebracha, Chaim lebracha. Chaim lebracha, Chaim lebracha. Chaim lebracha, Chaim lebracha. Chaim, Chaim, Chaim. Chaim.
Hoppa. She's the original Hoppa. Moshe noch gemacht das.
So where do you start a FABRENGEN of Yudal KISLEV? The Rebbe's Chasana. Where you start a FABRENGEN, the Rebbe's Chasana.
It was late. It was late. It was late.
So we'll start from a funny place, from a story, which I think is a very meaningful. The truth is, it's a very meaningful story, and it's a story about the Rebbe. It's a story about the Rebbe. That when Jem first started doing interviews, when they started out, so there was still some very old people around that they could interview. They started 30 years ago, come on. It was an old man. They got him mamish in his last couple of years. By the time they interviewed him at a big bid, a very big chassid, his name was Bezbaratka. Mr. Bezbaratka, I don't know his first name. He knew the Rebbe from Paris. Ik ben a shtickle madei, ik ben a shtickle scientist. There's a letter from the Rebbe to him about Tu B'Shvat. They saw it. The Rebbe wrote a letter twice. Two Gesais, about Chamish Asher to him. And you could see from the letter that the Rebbe is writing to a Ishmada, to a man who either understands science or thinks he understands science, which is pretty much the same thing. He knew the Rebbe from Paris. He was a businessman. And his business was that he made glass. If you can give me the mashka, I'd appreciate it. He made glass. He made special kind of glass. I don't know exactly what it was. And evidently had some kind of a patent for some kind of invention that he made. But he was also an intellectual. A kluger mensch. He was a smart man. And in Paris, he tells the story. In Paris in the 1930s, there was a club of Jewish intellectuals. They used to meet once a month. And they say there was a bunch of people. I don't know how you had to, what you had to do to become a member, but if you were an intellectual and you were Jewish and you lived in Paris, you belonged to this club. And they would meet once a month, and one of the members had to make a presentation on any subject he wanted. In Mada, in science. But you had to give Mada Makoibis, you had to give references first, so people knew what the topic was, so they could research it, so that the event would be dynamic. They would argue back and forth. So this Mez Baratka says that this club had two from Yidden in it. Two from Jews. Shrei Mitero Mitzvah in the group. Him, and Kelahavna Vukmanisht, and the Rebbe. And the Rebbe used to come every month to this meeting, apparently. He was Meshtatev. I don't know to what extent the Rebbe participated. But the story that I want to tell you is not this one. This is the Hakdama to the Maisa that I want to tell you. So he says, Mr. Bedradka said that once the Rebbe himself made a presentation on a certain subject in science and physics. I don't know what it was. So the Rebbe gave notes beforehand, people to prepare. And the Rebbe wrote on top of the page the date, the English date, whatever date it was, 5,697. 5,697 from creation. The Rebbe, it's like a chepet mitzvah. The Rebbe knew exactly. If he wouldn't have written the year, no one would have even noticed. He wrote the date, the Goyish date, I think, and 5,697. Anyway, the Rebbe walks in to give his lecture, and they didn't let him speak. Excuse me, before you start. The whole lecture went away arguing about how old the earth was. The Rebbe never got this point, from what I understood. They started to argue, and the Rebbe quoted the Zayar, and they started to debate whether the Zayar is true or not. This Bez Baratka doesn't remember the conversation. He just says one thing, that when the Rebbe was done, the Rebbe argued for a young earth. I mean, the earth doesn't have to be that old. It could be a young earth. When the Rebbe was done, the entire room of non-frum scientists got up and gave him a standing ovation. That's right.
Yeah, give me what?
A standing ovation. They were very impressed. Someone was challenging to the Rebbe to the age of the world, and he defended a young earth. He defended the idea that the world is not millions of years old, it's a few thousand years old. Anyway, but that's not the story I wanted to tell. The story I wanted to tell was that the Rebbe had a relationship with this Mr. Barat. He had a kasher with him. And they talked periodically. I don't know how often they would meet, but the Rebbe had a kasher with him. He tells the story, Derech Hagav, which is really worth mentioning by FABRENGEN, that he went to the apartment with the Rebbe lived. They had a studio, they had one room. And he knocked on the door, and he said, is the Rebbe home? He probably called him by his name, and she said no. And he asked if he could come in, and the Rebbe said to him, Yichud. When last time you heard that? Yichud. The Rebbe stood with him in the hall. You can't come in. My husband's not home. I'm a woman. You're a man. Yichud. And the Rebbe went into the hall. It's a beautiful story. It's a very, very important story to tell. He tells the story on the gem, and the miracle is that it's actually up there because it's Nachzeh Neuchet. Anyway, the story that I wanted to tell is as follows. He was sitting in his business talking to his mother. And he gets a message that Mr. Schneerson is here. Mr. Schneerson, however you pronounce it in French. Mr. Schneerson. No, Mr. Schneerson. It's Mr. Schneerson. So he apologizes to his mother, and he says to his mother that this is a special man. This Mr. Schneerson is a special man. When he comes, he has to interrupt, even though he's talking to her, and he has to go speak to him. And she said, wait a minute. You don't recognize the name? The Lubavitcher, he had this Mr. Mezberatki, He had no idea who the Rebbe was. He had no idea who the Rebbe was. As far as he was concerned, the Rebbe was a Frum Yid. He wasn't the only one. A lot of Frum Yid. In those days, the idea that Frum Yidden should not go to college was not yet established, because people hadn't yet realized the Sakona Shebadavar. A lot of the smartest people, a lot of the Rosh Yeshivas from the Friedrich and Dar, when the Rebbe was in Berlin, all the big Rosh Yeshivas were in Berlin with him. And Rabbi Hollander said, and then also in a gem video, that he met the Rav who told your father the Maise with the Smiche. Weinberg. That Weinberg says he was in Berlin. All these big Rabbanim came. There was Rosh Yeshivas in America. He says everybody was affected by Berlin. Everybody was affected by Berlin except the Rebbe. The Rebbe's Berlin, it was no different than Lubavitch. It didn't mean anything to him. A kid said, so she says to him, his mother says to him, that's the mishpach of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So she asks him about the Rebbe, and he describes the Rebbe, that he's very intelligent, very soft-spoken, with very strong, starke deis, strong opinions and everything, and he's very resolute in his day. You can't push him around. When he thinks something and he believes it, you argue, you can argue back, he doesn't bend. Anyway, he goes to see the Rebbe. And he had known the Rebbe for a few years at this point. And they talk, or whatever they talk. And then he says to the Rebbe, my mother just told me that your last name is a prominent last name. It's not the last name. Do you have a shaykhis to the Lubavitcher Rebbe? Do you have a relationship with the Lubavitcher Rebbe? So the Rebbe smiled and said, Musye is ein Tochter. That was the answer. The Rebbetzin was Musye. Musye is ein Tochter. The Rebbe didn't say, I'm his son. No. He says, my wife is his daughter. Musye is ein Tochter. I think from a point of view of Chassidim, there's a lot, obviously, Yidal KISLEV has a lot of, Yidal KISLEV is very important. But one of the angles of Yidal KISLEV is to understand the Rebbe's thinking. To the Rebbe, his yichus, the Rebbe's yichus is that he married Musya. That is yichus. The Rebbe's yichus is that he's the son-in-law of the Frierdiker Rebbe. There's actually a letter where the Rebbe writes in Yossi Aleph Be'eches Nifne, Chosne Kebnoi, about himself, Chosne Kebnoi. Das ist gechilik. Alstaf Neus Deutschen. Ich will das sagen in Yossi Nifne. Andere meinen, dass Nifne meint herausgehen, Nifne meint herausgehen. The famous quote that we have for Yidal KISLEV, at the Rebbe Fabrengen on the 25th wedding anniversary. This year is 95 years. 25th wedding anniversary was 70 years ago. Tov Shin Yud Dalet. So I'm sure you've heard the stories. They're printed now.
Yom came out, yeah?
No, the Yom get Tov Shin Gimel.
Gimel.
This is 11 years after Tov Shin Yud Dalet. The story was that in those years the Rebbe did not Fabrengen that much. He Fabrengen Shabbos Mevorchim. And the Shabbos Mevorchim Fabrengens were short. There was a Maimer and a couple of short siches. In those years, the big Fabrengen nation were Yom Tov, the feast. Matzah Rosh Hashanah, Matzah Simchas Torah, Yutes Kislev, Yud Shvat, Purim, Matzah Pesach, Matzah Shavuos, Yud Beis Tammuz, Chof Av. And those Fabrengens went all night. They were Fabrengen 10 hours. But the Shabbos Fabrengen nation was a Maimer. And the Maimer in those years was probably close to an hour or more. And a Sikha, before the Sikha, the Fabrengen was not that long. But he only Fabrengen Shabbos Mevorchim. It was very, very uncommon to have a Fabrengen Shabbos, which is not a Shabbos Mevorchim. So,
only the Shabbos after
I think later. In the beginning, I wasn't there either. But you can look at that. This photo by here. You can look at this photo. Anyway, so the Rebbe was not playing Fabrengen. So there were a couple of very chashuv orchim here. There were a lot of weddings. That's Chanukah. So Ben Zion Shem Tov was here, and Pinya Altes was here. These are very important people. And there was a discussion in Shul that there has to be. It was a very short Shabbos. Shabbos is like now. It's over 5 o'clock. You have to make a Fabrengen for the Rebbe's 25th wedding anniversary. And the talk was that there has to be a Fabrengen. The Kochzach Fabrengen Shabbos. Derweile, the Rebbe. The Rebbe's mother went home. Battle Eunuch came in to the Rebbe's mother to say good Shabbat. He was very close to her. And the Rebbe's mother was very, very concerned with the covet of the Rebbe, Yadua. And the Rebbe's mother says the Battle Eunuch knew what's going on. It's the 25th anniversary, what's going on. So Battle Eunuch says that the Pinya Altes and Metzir Shem Tov are organizing a Fabrengen. So she was happy. The Rebbe Pinya Altes knocked on the Rebbe's door. It was a long, long time ago. And Pinya Altes was very close. Pinya Altes was born in the same city as the Rebbe. There was Nikolayev. I heard a shmur, I don't know if it's true, that when the Altaises would come to the Rebbe, I don't know them, they were childhood friends. They grew up together. So Pinya Altais knocks on the Rebbe's door and says to the Rebbe opens the door. Yeah, I came to demand Shatchanas. You know the story that a success has 1,000 fathers and failure is an orphan. Yeah, apparently the Rebbe's Chasana had 1,000 fathers. But put him, it worked out. He locks on this. I want to cut Shatchanas. His uncle was Rebbe L'chaim. He was killed by the Nazis in Machshmah. And the L'chaim Altais was involved in the Shidduch. This Kama V'Kama Sipurim we have even in the Sichas. From the Friedrich Rebbe, the L'chaim Altais was involved in the Shidduch. In this Faran, in this Sefer HaSichas, Tafrei Shpeit, for the Friedrich Rebbe, Tafrei Shpeit V'Zayin, the Rebbe, he would come to the Friedrich Rebbe as a bocher with his brother Leibel. And they would stand behind the Friedrich Rebbe. That was their place. They stood behind the Friedrich Rebbe. And there's in the Sefer HaSichas, L'chaim Altais was sitting in front of the Friedrich Rebbe, and the Rebbe is standing behind the Friedrich Rebbe. And the L'chaim says to the Friedrich Rebbe, pointing at the Rebbe, Achosn, you should take him for your daughter. And the Friedrich puts out his hands, and he says, Mi yite, which means I wish, Mi yite. Rebbe L'chaim says to the Rebbe in a room full of people that he should take the Rebbe for a chassan, and the Friedrich puts his hands out, Halavai, Mi yite. So he was involved in the Shidduch somehow, I don't know how, but a lot of people take credit for the Shidduch. And he says to the Rebbe never gave him Shatchanas, so Mele came to collect Shatchanas. So the Rebbe, and unfortunately, L'chaim was not able to collect himself. So he's a nephew, so he's collecting it for his uncle. So the Rebbe says, what do you want? He says, I want a Fabrengen. So the Rebbe verbrengt. He said, a Maimer, v'chol b'nayach. He said, a Maimer, v'chol b'nayach. He said, a Maimer, v'chol b'nayach. Which is the same Maimer the Friedrich Rebbe said, by his Ufruf, the Shabbos for the Chasana. And I think in that Fabrengen, the Rebbe revealed a lot of Menhogim. In that Fabrengen, which was spontaneous, the Rebbe revealed a lot of the Menhogim of Chasana that we do, even very important things like what color, what the ring is made out of, what shape it has, things that are basic to halacha. The Rebbe discussed a lot of Menhagim in that Fabrengen. Anyway, Fabrengen was over, and Kedak Rebbe Kodesh then went to see his mother. The Rebbe goes into his mother, and his mother says to him, "Oh, I heard that in Fabrengen 770 there's a Fabrengen, Pinya Altes, and Benzin and Shemtiv have the whole place on wheels." And the Rebbe says, "What? I Fabrengen, they're getting the credit for it." Because the Rebbe got the news too early. And but in that Fabrengen, the Rebbe said, we all know the word, the Rebbe said in that Fabrengen, it's at the end of the Fabrengen, it's one line. Heint is the Tag, was verbunden. Eich mit mir und mir mit euch. Heint ist der Tag, was ich mit rein in Askone Saklau. Und zusammen, weil wir ausmaten in der Gula Hamitis war Schleima. I think that's more or less the wording. The Heint is the Tag, was verbunden euch mit mir und mir mit euch. Heint ist der Tag, was ich mit rein in Askone Saklau. Und zusammen, weil wir ausmaten in der Gula Hamitis war Schleima. And in English, I'll translate in English. Today is the day that connected you to me and me to you. Today is the day that I became involved in public service. And together, we'll exhaust and bring the true and whole and perfect and peaceful Geula. That's the quote. That's a famous quote. Now, the Rebbe was not involved in Askonis till he married the Friedrich Rebbe's daughter. The Rebbe was the son of the Rav of Yekaterinslav. The Rebbe himself said he was called many times for questioning. And the KGB intimidated him and they bullied him. The Rebbe once said by Fabrengen about some guy who was trying to blackmail the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, "You have to let me talk if you don't mind." The Rebbe said, "I grew up in the Soviet Union, and I was the son of a Rav, and they called me for frequent questions." And the Rebbe said, "I wasn't afraid of them, not exactly afraid of you, whoever the you was." So the Rebbe was involved in Askonis heavily before he married the Friedrich Rebbe's daughter. But in the Rebbe's mind, the idea that the Rebbe belongs to the Jewish people, Askonos HaKlal, begins when he marries the Rebbe's. This is I think it's a legitimate way to describe the Chasana. From the Rebbe's point of view, as far as the Rebbe is concerned, his whole yichus is the Rebbe the Shver. The whole identity of the Rebbe is that he married the daughter of the Frierdiker Rebbe, and this is his connection to all of it. His only kesher to anything is this. You know, I talk a lot and I get into a lot of trouble. I don't know if you're aware, but I get into a lot of trouble. Apparently I'm getting into more trouble as time passes. But people had a tie to me years ago when I told the story. I heard the story and then I saw the story in print. I figured if it was in print I could tell the story. That in Zalman Garari's book, it says that when the Frierdiker Rebbe passed away, the Rebbe refused to be a Rebbe, and there was a lot of pressure put on the Rebbe. The Rebbe was becoming the Nesius, and all kinds of people came to the Rebbe with all kinds of tightness that the Rebbe should become the Nasi, the Rebbe. And Zalman Garari came to the Rebbe with a simple tightness. Zalman Garari lived here, and he said to the Rebbe, I was in Rostov in 1922 or 23 when your mother came to the Frierdiker Rebbe to discuss your shidduch. Zalman Garari was a 15-year-old boy, he was a big boy. I was in Rostov when your mother came to the Frierdiker Rebbe, he tells us to the Rebbe, came to the Frierdiker Rebbe to discuss your shidduch, and part of the negotiations were that you're the next Rebbe. So Zalman Garari says to the Rebbe, I don't understand this. Yeah. It was established before you got married. Your mother negotiated with the Frierdiker Rebbe on behalf of the Bleivik, and the Rebbe is going to be the next Rebbe. People don't like it, I don't know why, but this is the story. So he tells the Rebbe, what does it mean the Rebbe doesn't... It was preordained, so you know what the Rebbe answers? Push it. Couldn't get for schwer. The Frierdiker Rebbe never told me. My mother told me, my father told me, my grandfather told me, I didn't hear from the Frierdiker Rebbe, and if I didn't hear from the Frierdiker Rebbe, it didn't happen. This is the perspective. This is the perspective of the Rebbe. Yudalit Kislev for the Rebbe is the day that connects him to Beis Harav. Chachafilu, the Rebbe has his own line, Kvayochu, but the Rebbe's whole identity, was the Rebbe said many times, as far as I'm concerned, before the Frierdiker Rebbe, there's nothing. That's all there is, the Frierdiker Rebbe. So for the Rebbe, this is a very important day. For the Rebbe, this is a day which begins the inyan of the Nesius. This is Yudalit. I feel, if you'll, from the Rebbe's perspective, and no, you can't know these things, but this is the Hergish. To the Rebbe, Yudalit Kislev is the day that begins the Nesius of the Rebbe, because it connects him to the Frierdiker Rebbe. To give you another angle on it, which is really crazy. When the Rebbe Chayamushka passed away, the Rebbe called in a Rav and asked him if Halacha is still an Edom. The Rebbe called in the Rosh Hashiva, Rabbi Pekarsky, and he asked him if Halacha is still a son of the Frierdiker Rebbe. Now, Rabbi Pekarsky knew two things. The answer has to be yes, and he better be able to defend it. Now, I don't know how you defend it. But the answer was yes, and he defended it. Would you imagine? Tavshin Memches, the Rebbe wants to know if it's an Edom. This is the degree to which this connection is so important. And again, I feel to the Rebbe, this is Yidal Kislev. Yidal Kislev is the day you become good to his Rebbe. And his connection to his Rebbe is the foundation of his whole life. And the lesson for us, obviously, is that this is, everybody here is connected to the Rebbe. That relationship, that connection is the basis and the foundation of our whole life. And it's one of the many hisbonenus of Yidal Kislev. One of the many things to consider Yidal Kislev is the idea that to the Rebbe Yidal Kislev is the day of his kashrus. To the Rebbe Yidal Kislev is the day of his kashrus. And to Chassidim, the lesson is a lesson of his kashrus. Of the idea that our relationship with the Eibush depends on the connection to the Rebbe. It's a foundational idea. Or to say, like the radicals like to say, what's the Rebbe goes up? What's Chayel? Right? The Rebbe said, "What's Chayel? What's Chayel? One of the Sheva brachas of the Frierdiker Rebbe. What's Yutis Kislev? What's Yutis Kislev? It's one of the Sheva brachas of the Rebbe. That's how the Rebbe looked at it. What's Yutis Kislev? One of the Sheva brachas of the Rebbe. It's a point of view. It's a serious point. It's a real point of view. It's a serious point of view. Okay, l'chaim everybody. L'chaim.
L'chaim. So far.
No.
Everything's clear, like the mikvah. Mikvah water.
No. Come on, let's go. You saw the video from where the Rebbe sent a message to Rosh Dayan to take Damascus. He says, I can't, and the Rebbe gets on the phone. Big mistake. Big mistake. And then he says, big mistake. I wanted to say it loud. I would have said it loud.
But you know that. But you know that you're a mitra.
Okay, l'chaim Hashem to bless us all in the little tiny world that we're in. We should have nachas on our own children. And nachas myself. We should figure out how to be normal. Figure out how to be normal. It's not a minig Lubavitch. It's a yes shame with him. I'm a meg. L'chaim l'vrach. L'chaim.
I'm not responsible.
Okay, so.
When I was a little child, this is a maisa, a little kid. So my father used to tell me stories. Every father tells his kids stories. My father told us stories also. So one of the stories that he told us is in the Maimer B'chol B'nayich. So as a child, I heard the story. When I became a bachar, I found the story. The Frierdiker Rebbe said a Maimer B'chol B'nayich on the Shabbos before the Chasana. They were married on a Tuesday. And the Friedrich Rebbe wanted the wedding to be Dafke in Varsha. The Rebbe was living in Latvia, Riga, Latvia, which was, there was a lot of from people there, but it was a more modern place. Varsha was a Ir, Malay, Chachonim, V'Seferim. I mean, Varsha in those years, it was a we have no Hasaga, was made Großkeit and Yiddishkeit and Torah and Yerushalayim and Chassidus. And the Rebbe wanted to make the wedding in Varsha, and this was the Friedrich Rebbe's introduction. So yeah, this Paltiel, and the Friedrich Rebbe was in Russia. And Russian Chassidus, Bechlal, was a little bit separate from Polish Chassidus. And this was an opportunity for the Rebbe to meet the Gedolei Paltiel. A lot of very big Rebbes came themselves. Those who didn't come sent Shluchim, Kiyadua. Yisrael Gordon, Olav Shalom, used to describe how his father described how at one point in the Chasana there was a dance of all the Gutta Yidden, all the Rebbes. And the Rebbe danced with them. The Friedrich Rebbe danced with them in a circle. I don't know whether our Rebbe was Mishtatif or not. But Yechanan gefelt, he watched them dance, and he felt that there was something special about it. It was not just a dance, guys going around and around in a circle. It was something more. And he describes the mood by the Chasana. He says the Friedrich Rebbe was walking on water. By the Rebbe's Chasana, the Friedrich Rebbe was so happy, mamish, he could fly. The simcha was coming out of every pore. And when a Rebbe is besimcha, gisach brachas, it was a very wonderful time. But the ufruf was in Riga. The ufruf was not in Poland. The girls went to Poland before to buy things for the wedding, but the men stayed behind. And we can find you a spot. We can find you a spot. There's seats available. There's seats available. The Friedrich Rebbe made the ufruf in Riga. By the FABRENGEN, by the KISLEV, he repeated the Maimed a second time, the day before the Chasan, I think. He said the Maimed twice. Anyway, but in the Maimed, the story, the Maimed is hard, but the story is a story, you know. I forgot even how it comes into the Maimed, but there's a story. Yeah. That the story was, the Friedrich Rebbe writes in the Maimed there was a Chassid who came to the Tzemach Tzedek. And he said to the Tzemach Tzedek, Rebbe, alle treten auf mir. Rebbe, everybody tramples on me. So the Tzemach Tzedek answered, Was versprecht sich im ganzen Beis HaMedrash, as wo man tret man auf dir. Why are you spreading yourself out across the whole Beis HaMedrash, that wherever anybody steps, they have no choice but to step on you? That's the story. How it comes into the mind, I don't. But I remember as a child, my father told me the story. Was versprecht sich im ganzen Beis HaMedrash, as wo man tret man auf dir. It's one of the stories that the Friedrich Rebbe said, the Shabbos before the Rebbe's Chasana. What's the point of the story? I don't know. I just wanted to tell the story. I just wanted to tell the story. I was thinking about it, so I'm sharing the story. So the Ufruf was in Varsha. The Ufruf was in Riga, and the Chas was in Varsha. And in those days in Varsha, there was a Temech Tmimim. If you know the history, there was the Yeshiva's Temech Tmimim in Varsha. Then it started in Tafresh Pei.
Share one thing with you. I'm leaving. Did a story by the Rebbe's Chasana. Zayda got an invitation to the Chasana.
Where was he living?
He lived in Baltimore.
Oh, in America.
America. He got an invitation because Fagan was Lanzmann, whatever was on the list. So he told me the story a number of times, and I confirmed it. So he got an invitation. So Zayda says, why did you send me an invitation? I'm going to go to Poland for the Chasana. You know what? When someone sends you an invitation and you're out of town, it means to send a present. You're going for a Chasana, you send a present. That's what you get an invitation. You send a present even if you're not going to go. So he said, so my dad was saying like this, how much of a present can I send her? Okay? I said, you know what, I have an idea. He went to the board of the Old Babaji Shul of Baltimore, and he said to them, and he took the invitation, which was signed by the Friedrich Rebbe, and he crossed on his name, and he wrote the name of the shul. And he told the board that the shul was invited. He said the shul can give a better present than I could. So, I mean, he was a very practical person. You get a wedding, you send a present. Okay? So I have that invitation. The invitation is to see, you see his name, see a line through it, and the name of the name of the shul. Now, what does that mean? How much did he send in those days? I have no idea. He never told me. I never asked. But I'm just saying. But I was the feeling that this is one of the most precious things I have. I have this invitation from the particular Rebbe to my Zayda with a cross out. And my Zayda told me a number of times. He's so proud of it.
The story, it's like a sign, the Fidik Rebbe V'Ksav Kodesh?
Yes. It seems that there are a number of this choice.
Right, yeah.
Okay? The ones who were going to come, the ones who weren't going to come, the were not. But I heard it was a whole different thing. But the one I got is the one I got. It's signed by the pretty Rebbe. So I figured, this is a good opportunity to tell a story. Anytime, Rabbi Castell, anytime you want to tell a story, we'll stop and listen.
Beautiful. I got it.
Where do I live? I can tell you where I live.
Good luck.
Viewing, you make a viewing.
Check.
Und wir sagen, chassidische Nigen derweil, ja, Nigen ist einmal eine gute Sache. Do you want some? No. The Rebbe did this 3,000 times in a night and he never missed. In a klein kelishik. Think about it. Little tiny cups. The Rebbe is 80 years old and never misses. Never misses. Never misses. L'chaim, everybody. L'chaim, v'levracha. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim. Das ist die Sache, was wir gesehen alle Tag. Und mit Kemel nicht meisem Lev gewinnt zu der Pelle. L'chaim, v'levracha. L'chaim, v'levracha. L'chaim, v'levracha. L'chaim. So I wanted to say a part of it in the Chasana is this. So the story was like this. So after Shabbos, so the Ufruf was in Riga, and after Shabbos they went to Poland. One of the strangest things about the Rebbe's Chasana was that the Frierdiker Rebbe's personal secretary, Reb Chaim Fagin, was not allowed into Poland. He was a bad guy. I don't know why. Everybody got into Poland.
He was a Russian citizen.
So was the Frierdiker Rebbe, and so was the Rebbe, and so was everybody else.
He never was a citizen of Latvia. In order to leave Russia, in order to leave Russia, he actually even the
it took him 5 years to become a citizen of Latvia. Anyway, but Reb Chaim Fagin missed the wedding. He was the Frierdiker Rebbe's maskid. He was a special man. He was a big chassid, and they didn't let him into Poland. He missed the wedding. On the other hand, I heard this from somebody. Could be, I think I heard it. There was a yid by the name of Reb Zelig Slonim. Azriel Zelig Slonim is a very, very big chassid. He was a Kodev, he was a Slonim, he was a Shneerson. And he was a very special Jew. He was all over the world with the Frierdiker Rebbe. He was in Europe when the Rebbe was getting married. And he went to Berlin. And he found the apartment where the Rebbe was living. There was a bacher, it was for the Chasana. And it was in the afternoon, he knocked on the door. The Rebbe opened the door. The Rebbe was sitting in Rabbeinu Tam's film, learning Yerushalmi. The Rebbe was sitting in Rabbeinu Tam's film, learning Yerushalmi. It's Hayra B'chaim in the afternoon, every day, you read Rabbeinu Tam's film. And by the way, if you learn Yerushalmi, Rabbeinu Tam's film, anyway, he went into the Rebbe, and they talked, and the Rebbe was very nice to him. And he told the Rebbe that he really wants to go to the Chasana, but he's having a hard time getting into Poland. Poland was a very, very high-class country, you see. Mele, Berlin, this is given. But Poland, he can even ask him. So to get into Poland was very, very hard. And he was an Israeli citizen, I'm assuming, whatever it was called in those days. So he said that the Rebbe went with him to whatever office is necessary in Berlin and got him permission to be able to come to the wedding. And he would repeat the story to say, Shtel zach vor, the Rebbe himself helped me come to his wedding. He was by the chasana. So they came to Poland. There's a lot of details that I obviously don't know, but there's whatever. They stayed in a hotel. When they arrived on Monday. The wedding was on Tuesday. When the Friedrich got out of the train, there were thousands of people who came to see him. I mean, Warsaw was a Chassidish Stadt. It was a very Chassidish city. And even Azoi, if the Friedrich had been any Gutterid, whatever you want, I mean, the way they use the word Rebbe, but a Rebbe came to town, automatically there was an Olam. People were curious, they wanted to see, they wanted to be close. But the Friedrich Rebbe was something, I mean, the Friedrich Rebbe had won against Stalin. It mattered, there was something. So thousands of people came to the Friedrich Rebbe, and the Friedrich Rebbe had an obligation. You read it in the Sichos, read it in the Rishimis. He had an obligation to be a Rebbe, which meant he had to stand there and say hello to all these people. He couldn't just say, I'm sorry, I got to go. So the Rebbe snuck out. The Rebbe had to sneak out, because the Rebbe had things to do. It was the day before his chasana. His shomer was the same Rebbe L'chaim, Altois, who Pinya Altois collected the Shatchonis in Tavshin Yudalid. So he wrote a letter. He wrote two famous letters, which are now printed. They're very special letters. The first letter was written about the Rebbe's chasana. It's a detailed letter about the Rebbe's chasana. And the second letter is a letter about Tishrei Tofresh Tzadik. The Friedrich was in America. And he left the Rebbe's Zogazunzain, our Rebbe, in charge of the shul in Riga. And that Tishrei Tofresh Tzadik, the Rebbe did his job. He stood in for the Rebbe, the Shver, for the Friedrich Rebbe. There were certain things which were mufrach, l'mashal, the Rebbe, they wanted to offer the Rebbe maftir, and he refused. I'm assuming the Rebbe was not Baltekeya, but they were fabrengt, and the Rebbe danced sarcophagus. It was a very memorable Tishrei. Anybody who was Riga, Tofresh Tzadik, was not gypped. I just read today a Rishima, I don't even know how it came to my hands. I was turning pages, and it showed up. And the Rebbe verbrengt Schonweis, Nochanan, verbrengt. The whole city of Riga, no one knew who the Rebbe was. And they heard, the rumor spread from what happened to Shmini Atzeres. Simchas Torah B'nait, a bigger Elam came. And the rumor continued to spread. So instead of Nochagan Elam. So he has two letters, beautiful letters, which were written to his children who were living still in Russia. Somehow these letters were not lost. I think they were found in the Russian file that they had, that they found after Gimel Tammuz. But there's a long letter from Rabbi Chaim about the Rebbe's chassan. He was the Rebbe Shomer. So he describes sneaking out of the train station. No one should see who the Rebbe, because the people know who the Rebbe was. They want to shake his hand also. The Friedrich Rebbe Nebuch had to stay behind. There were thousands of people came to see him, and he had to do what a Rebbe has to do. You know, there's the Alter Rebbe said about COVID, that Makabos on Yisur Miyava, you know, that Makabos on Yisur Miyava. The Friedrich Rebbe, if I'm geschmeichelt as mit dem Geben kommt, geschmeichelt. Someone was giving the Alter Rebbe a lot of COVID, and the Rebbe was standing and smiling. So afterwards he asked him, why was he smiling? The Alter Rebbe said, Makabos on Yisur Miyava. When the Friedrich was in America, every city he came to, thousands of Yidden came to Kalapana. I'm talking 1929, 1930. This is after the Chasana. This is 28, 29, when he came to America. Every day, at the Friedrich Rebbe came to a new city, and people gave him COVID. Had a year Tage fast. He fasted. And there's letters from Reb Chatzah to the Rebbe's in the Chamadina to tell the Rebbe, he's got to eat. He came to a new city, and he traveled a lot, Friedrich Rebbe. Wherever he came, thousands of people came to come on him. That day he didn't eat at all. He fasted. So Reb Chatzah said, the Rebbe darf essen, the Rebbe has to eat. And the Friedrich Rebbe said, men darf doch das Eis kränken. You understand Yiddish? Men darf doch das Eis kränken. That means the COVID. You have to sick out of your system. But the word sick has a double connotation. You have to make yourself sick to get rid of it. Men darf doch das Eis kränken. Every time, if you ever look at the photos of the Friedrich Rebbe coming to America, look at the pictures when he arrived, And look at the pictures when he left. The last stop was Boston. You can see the photos. It's less than a year. He is exhausted. You can see the pictures. Frierdiker Rebbe came, the year in America was a very hard year. He didn't stop for a second. Anyway, but when the Frierdiker Rebbe came to this train station in Varsha, he had to greet all those people. And the Rebbe and his shaman stuck out of the train station. I think what ended up happening is they're trying to save time, but they went to the wrong hotel. They didn't know exactly where they go. So there's another complication. I think they took a hotel room. That they, the whole ma'aseh. Anyway, Sister L'chaim followed the Rebbe around the whole time. And the day of the chasna, he's with the Rebbe. He's writing a letter to his son who's still living in Russia, describing him the Rebbe. And L'chaim was a Nikolaev. The Alta is from Nikolaev. There was born in Nikolaev. And they knew the Rebbe. The Rebbe left Nikolaev when he was 7 years old. They knew the Rebbe quite well. And the Rebbe was 7. You understand? The Rebbe was 7. What did he look like? So he writes, Der junge Mann steht in David Minche. He was David Minche for his chasana. And he was saying Al-Chet. And I'm thinking, I'm ruminating. Rebbe L'chaim is writing his machshavas, his ergeshim. So at first he's writing, Is das derselbe Mendel? Is das derselbe Mendel? Is it the same Mendel that we knew as a kid all those years ago? Is it derselbe Mendel? The world had changed so much. And then as the letter goes on, he writes, It's derselbe Mendel. It's derselbe Mendel. He describes the Rebbe's getting ready for the chasana, the Al-Chet and the Minche. And then he says, I'm standing and I'm looking at him. And I'm thinking to myself, how much of my future and the future of my children is bound up in this young man who is about to get married to the daughter of Kol HaKodim, everything that's precious to us. He expresses his feelings about standing with the Rebbe and thinking then, who knows the significance? Who could imagine the significance of this chasna? Yeah, okay, the first though. The significance. These are his hergeshim that he's writing. By the way, when you're talking about Mendel, you don't say the Rebbe's name Azoy. There's a letter from the Frierdiker Rebbe, which is just this Adamah min HaMuzger, which he wrote to the Rebbe's Chaimushka. Everybody knows that the first time, so, I don't know if you guys know this, if people know this, Harav Chadakov had the Rishimis. Rabbi Chadakov was the Rebbe's secretary. And they made a book about this one, they made a book about this one, they made a book about this one. There's no book about Chadakov. Because they're right. He was the Rebbe's shadow. You write a book about there's nothing to write about Chadakov. There's really nothing to, it's interesting. There's nothing to write. Chadakov there was nobody as close to the Rebbe's Chadakov. Nobody wants to schreiben. About Rabbi Chadakov. And there's something in there. That nep is... Okay, we'll see. Mitzvah Hashem. But he wrote to the Shemis. He has notes, not long ones, little notes. And the Mishpacha gave it out. Kramer and his children. So one of the chas they gave out at the Shema where he writes, in Toshtin Zayin, today the Rebbe told me that the first time he saw the Frierdiker Rebbe was Chalamed Sukkos Tafresh Pei Gimel. Sukkos. The shmuel was, and that's how I printed in Igros Kodesh, that the first time the Rebbe saw the Frierdiker Rebbe was the Shabbos Boi B'Shalach al Pei Gimel. The Frierdiker Rebbe, Shabbos Pashas Boi B'Shalach Pei Gimel, said the Maimer Bossi Legani. The Maimer Bossi Legani, Tafshin Yud, was a reprint. I mean, for those who are not aware, in 1945, in Tafshin Hey, the Frierdiker Rebbe had a stroke, like a lady. And there's actually photos where you could see that his lip is warped a bit. After that stroke, he recovered. But he stopped writing Chasidus, he stopped saying Chasidus. So from the end of Tafshin Hey till Tafshin Yod, all my modern, they were reissued. It's hard to know exactly how much the Rebbe was involved, how much the Frierdiker was involved, but we did 2 Rebbes that my modern came out. Bossi Legani, Tafshin Yod, is a Maimer from Taf Reish Pei Gimel, word for word, word for word. But in Pei Gimel it starts, the Rebbe took a pencil and he crossed out like 15 lines, because like 15 lines into the Maimer it says, and that's what the Rebbe started, Bossi Legani. So the Rebbe was there. Our Rebbe was the Frierdiker Rebbe, when the Frierdiker Rebbe said the Basi Lagani. And then it was two Maimorim. Now it's four Maimorim, then it was two Maimorim, Basi Lagani. And by the way, we know where it's based on. The Basi Lagani from the Frierdiker Rebbe is based on the Basi Lagani from the Rebbe Rashab. And the second Maimon is based on, you could find the Maimorim, you could see the Hishtalshas of the Maimon. But the Rebbe was present when the Frierdiker Rebbe said in 2 weeks the Maimon Basi Lagani, which would be reissued for the Histalkas. But we now know that it was there once before. He came Tishrei. Now, when he came in the winter, the Rebbe came in the winter. I don't know, but for sure, one of the Inyanim was the Shidduch. One of the Inyanim was the Shidduch. So he came in the winter. The Rebbe came in the winter, and then he came again in the summer. I don't know what time in the summer. He came again in the summer, and he met the Mishpacha. The Rebbe met the Mishpacha. The Frierdiker Rebbe was quote on vacation at Gitzvu, and the Mishpacha was there, and the Rebbe came. And the REBBETZIN was there, and at some point the women went away, and the men remained alone. The men mean the Frierdiker Rebbe, and the Rebbe, the Rashag. And the Frierdiker Rebbe writes to the Rebbe Chaim Mushka about that. They spent a week together, and every day they fabrach, they spent time, they talked. They spent a week together, and the Frierdiker Rebbe and the Rebbe got to know each other. So he writes that the REBBETZIN Chana, die Woche, I think Lashon is, die Woche habe ich, whatever, gut gelernt, geherrig gelernt, Parshas Mendel. He writes, this week I studied Parshas Mendel. And Frierdiker Rebbe writes to his daughter, I spent time with him and I studied him. And he finished it with saying, I think I understand him a little bit. I think I understand him a little bit. He writes to the Rebbe's, and I think I understand him a little bit. So this, anyway, back to the point, the Chaim describes watching the Rebbe for the Chasana and thinking to himself, how important is this wedding? How important is this wedding? Anyway, so of course, as we know, the story was the Frierdiker Rebbe wanted that the Chelek HaRuchni should be in yeshiva, and the Chelek Gashmi should be in a hotel. In other words, the Chabas Panim and the Chuppah was in the yeshiva. There was a Teimcha Tmimim in Varsha. The Teimcha Tmimim in Varsha was made al-Asad. It was made by Shmuel Zalmanov. It wasn't the Frierdiker Rebbe's Hesederus. Chassidim in Varsha made Teimcha Tmimim. That Teimcha Tmimim would eventually close. The Teimcha Tmimim, which was later in Atvotsk, and before that in Varsha, was recreated with the Frierdiker Rebbe a few years later. The Teimcha Tmimim that was there in Pei Zayin, Pei Tes, was a yeshiva that was founded by one of the Zalmanovs, 5 years Zalmanov. It's a nice story, and I don't mean to digress. So Gvara uses Meir Blazinski. I don't know if you've heard of him. Meir Blazinski. There's a biography about him too. Meir Blazinski was a Chassidish. He had lived in Eretz, and he was makar of a lot of people to Chassidus. He was a big fashter. He was a big maskal of Chassidus, and he learned Chassidus people day and night. He was also makar of a lot of people who were, what you would think that you're not supposed to talk to them kind of people. And he learned with them Chassidus. As a stark makar gewesen. He learned Chassidus a lot of people. This Meir Blazinski, his story was, it's an interesting story. He was a Chassidish Abacher. I forgot what Chassidus he belonged to, but it was a Chernobyl Chassidus. It was one of the branches of Chernobyl. Alexander? Thanks for the correction. And you know the name of the Chassidus specifically? What was the particular branch? What branch of Alexander? It was a different name. He was 13, 14 years old. He was learning in yeshiva when he got kashas. He didn't understand. And versteht sich, ich meine, in Chassidus Bechlal, everything goes in Amunah Pshuta. You're not supposed to ask questions. And by the way, people may not know this. Chabad is also a Chassidus. And in Chabad also, you're also not supposed to have questions. You're supposed to go with the previous of Amunah Pshuta. But if unfortunately you have a kasha, it's over to fragen. So he started asking questions. And his mashpim couldn't help him. So they brought him to the Baal HaSulam. The Baal HaSulam, Brandwein, Ashlag, lived in Varsha. And he talked to him, and he wasn't happy. He wasn't working. And he was in a Beis Medrash, he's in a Beis Medrash, and he hears 5-ish Zalmanov learning Tanya with a younger man. And Tanya talked to him. So he went over to the 5-ish Zalmanov and says, what are you learning? He says, we're learning Tanya. Could we learn? So I think he told him, listen, I don't want to make trouble with your yeshiva. I don't have any problems. I don't have politics. So he brought 10 Bachrim. They started learning Chassidus. And that's how he was Miyas yeshiva. They consulted the Frierdiker Rebbe. They got to the Shus. The Frierdiker Rebbe, when he saw them, was so happy. He was so happy. He was so happy with Tebchtim Varsha. In other words, it was a grassroots yeshiva. It was made locally. But the story with the Meir, I'll tell you 2 stories of Meir Blazinski. 2 stories. The first story is that he left his yeshiva and he started learning in Chabad. Chabad. And his mother went to their Rebbe and said to the Rebbe that the Meir Zavek learning Kabbalah. That's how it was framed, learning Kabbalah, as if Tanya's Kabbalah. It's interesting to me. There's a Chassidus. There's a misnagdim. Chassidus. People are afraid of the Tanya like it's a cancer. You can learn anything you want. You can learn Zayah, you can learn Sefer Yetzirah, you can learn Riziyah Malach. Just don't learn Tanya. It's a pele. And I understand why, because the Tanya works. This is a Hazeke de Shchiche, you understand? You learn Tanya, something is going to happen. So she went to the Rebbe and said, I learned Kabbalah. So he sent a message to this Rebbe, he was 14 years old. And he said to him, you have to stop. And he didn't stop. So he got sick. And he got really sick. And he was in the hospital. And his mother is standing by his bedside, and his mother says, if you'll stop learning Kabbalah, the Rebbe said, you'll stop learning Kabbalah, you'll stop, learn Tanya, you'll have a refuah shleima. He was very sick. And he says to his mother, I want a couple hours to think about it, 2 hours to think about it. It's a true story. It's a 14-year-old boy chico. So anyway, his mother comes back 2 hours. He says to his mother, I don't know if I'm going to live or I'm going to die, but I'm not stopping. I'm not stopping. I don't know how much long after, but a short time after, he started recovering. So he says, you understand? You know, Mesiras Nefesh v'Chassidus. He literally was very sick. And then he made the decision to learn Chassidus, and that was it. You know, the Hill Paracher. The Hill Paracher was a Chernobyl Chassid. For the Matla Chernobyl. So he asked the Chernobyl permission to go to the Mittler Rebbe. The Matla Chernobyl. And the Matla Chernobyl told him that he shouldn't go, and he warned him, as Eiv Gay, was to liegen mit dem Puppekaruf. Which was a danger. He started with the Matla Chernobyl. Rabbi Hill went. And on the way to Lubavitch, the wagon, it was a long trip, the wagon went over a bump. He was thrown out of the wagon. He flew a number of feet, and he landed flat on his back. He didn't break a bone. It was a pelle. He didn't break a bone. He got back into the wagon. He went to Lubavitch. He went into the Mittler Rebbe, and in the first Yechidus, he told the Mittler Rebbe that the Chernobyl Magid has a kpeid on him. So before he could finish, the Mittler Rebbe says to him, "Bist du Schengelegen Puppekaru?" Well, you think it was a mistake that you fell on your back and you didn't get hurt? Schengelegen Puppekaru. That's the first story. The second story with this Meir Blazin'S is even a bigger pelle. He got married. Ich weiß, Pevov, he got married. And he got Naden. Poland was a very poor country. Poland was a very poor country. Between the wars, Yidden of Poland gelitten von Anias, man kann sich nicht vorstellen. And a Naden, a dowry, it was a substantial amount of money. And it was mamish chayoino. It was mamish bread and butter. And the yeshiva, Teim Chatmibim, hat sich gehalten bei Vermachenach. There was no money. So he gave his entire dowry. And the yeshiva stayed open 2 more years. If not for Meir Blazin'S Daden, there wouldn't have been a yeshiva to make the Kabbalah's punishment. It's a story of a real. It's a maisa. It's a painful story. You know, when you read the end of the story, the yeshiva closed, and he like wasted his money. But the yeshiva was open for 2 more years, and this is the story. So the Frierdiker Rebbe wanted that the Chelik Aruch should be in the yeshiva, and the Chelik Gashmi should be someplace else. So he has to see Elachayim describing it. I can't describe it so well. I don't want to describe it so well. When I'll be as old as him, I'll be able to. He describes how beautiful the color looked, the very beautiful stuff. But ich kann das nicht immer sagen. He describes it was very beautiful. The chasana, that chasana was begashmi sehr schön. The whole room was decorated and at alt uitgemalt. He was an old man. It got the shaykhs some machshavas. You understand? The keder is mal. You have to read. If you want to read, go look. So now I got your attention. After you come out, I have for niggas Kaddish. So you go get the book and you read the whole letter. You read those parts. Mistama, you won't have your Machshavas. He described the chassan was in one room and the color was. He described in great detail how it looked. He was from the Chashuv. He was sitting even on. The Friedrich Rebbe's schwere Schwieger came to the Chasane. Rabbi Avram Schneerson, the Friedrich Rebbe's schwer was at the Chasane. Avram Schneerson was the son of Shalnech, of Nezhin. But I don't think the Unterfrieder was a Friedrich Rebbe, and I forgot, maybe it was him. Meisha Hardenstein was the Unterfrieder. By the Chuppah. But the Kabbalah's Panim is also Mistam of the same people. From Kislev. Because maybe he came without his Rebbetzin. You know that they got a matana. It says in the Igros Kodesh. I don't know what that means, but okay, whatever you say. The Avram Schneerson gave the Rebbe as a gift his father's Meneda. His father was a Rebbe. His father Shalnech of Nezhin. He's in the oil with the Mittler Rebbe. He's in the oil with the Mittler Rebbe. He was an Adam Gobel. He was the Friedrich Rebbe. He was the Rebbe Manash Mechuten. Razor was married to his daughter, and he said the Friedrich was married to his granddaughter. And he gave the Rebbe of Matana the Meneda that belonged to his father. And the Rebbe wrote this to his father, Rebbe Leivik, that he got b'matana the Meneda that belonged to Avram Schneerson of Kishinev, and the Rebbe Leivik says to him, enjoy it and use it. No one has a clue where that Meneda is, but the Meneda the Rebbe used, I don't think that was the Meneda, the Kishinev Rebbe. Of Nezhin, the Nezhin. I don't know what happened to the Meneda, but there's an exchange. Anyway, so the chuppah took place in the courtyard of the yeshiva. Ich will nicht meinig sein. So Chaim writes that he was an Adam Choshev. He wasn't Adam Choshev. But the moment the pushing starts, he was an old guy. He was finished. He was done. So by the Kabbalah's part, he had a very good spot. He was either sitting at the head table or at the head table. But when the chuppah started, and the chuppah went outside, he found himself all in the back. No one had the Rachmanos on him. He was an old man. He couldn't push. Forget about it. So he couldn't see the chuppah. The Friedrich Rebbe himself, first of all, when they went to the chuppah, the Rebbe Ayat had gesungen, the Alten Rebbe's Nigen. The Friedrich Rebbe sang out loud, the Alten Rebbe's Nigen, the Dal Bovis. And then he did all the Shah. He made the Birchas Edison and the whole Shabbat Brachas. Friedrich Rebbe basically did everything himself. And the Chaim writes in his letter that when the Rebbe said the Shabbat Brachas, the Friedrich Rebbe said the Shabbat Brachas, he says, I swear I heard the voice of the Rebbe. I mean the Rebbe Rashab. Yeah. I swear that I heard the Friedrich Rebbe said the Shabbat Brachas, the Chaim gesagt, I swear that I heard the voice of the Rebbe, meaning the voice of the Rebbe Rashab. This was the Kabbalah's Panim. Then there was a long hefsek, and the Chasna, the Sudas Chasna was much later, someplace else in the city, and the Chasna all night. So wait, so you know this, right? By the Kabbalah's Panim, the Friedrich Rebbe said, it's printed. You do Mafursa. It's known, it's famous that by every chasana 3 deiros come. This says parents and grandparents who are Elam Emes come to participate in the chasana. Sometimes it's more and even more. So the Friedrich ich will jetzt sagen nach Chassidus, I say a Maimer, was dem a Teil von Taten, a Teil von Seiden, let's say to the Barash, a Teil von the Tzemach Tzedek, which is the Elter Zeder from the Chosin, and I think even a Teil from the Fetter, from the Barasham, from the Rebbe Zeder. And this is going to be the invitation to the Chasanet. And then the Friedrich Rebbe says, the Friedrich Rebbe used to say this from time to time. The Rebbe, I never saw this. The Friedrich Rebbe used to quote this Lashon. I heard and I saw, I think, or I imagined, I have a very good imagination, that our Rebbe said that when the Friedrich Rebbe said, that means he saw. That means that whoever the Baal Shmuel was, when the Friedrich Rebbe said, the Baal Shmuel was Kenegdei. The Friedrich Rebbe said that there's a few times in the Sichas where the Friedrich Rebbe says that Oishprach. Yehei Baal Shmuel, and it's a short maimer, right? I've been making a proposal for all the years to nobody that they should make the chasana maimer to the bar mitzvah maimer, and the bar mitzvah maimer to the chasana maimer. Mitzvah maimer is impossibly hard. The chasana maimer is very easy maimer. So bar mitzvah hat na gute Kopf to the chasana wird verstoppt. The chasana maimer is very easy. The Friedrich's maimer is like getting a maimer. It's a short maimer. It's an easy maimer. The chodei it's a nice maimer. When I went to the chuppah, I heard that the REBBETZIN'S said to people, ich kann noch feel in them Tatens hand. The Friedrich took her to the chuppah. I could still feel my father taking me. She couldn't see. She was covered. And it was steps. And the Friedrich Rebbe held her. So she says, I can still feel my father holding me as I went to the chuppah. I never get. And the chasna was in a different place. And the way it worked, I don't know the details, but there were different invitations. Some people were invited for the dinner. Some people invited for Simchas Chasna Makala. And today, you come with them you want, right? If you came with the wrong ticket at the wrong time, they didn't let you in. There was police, there was a whole situation. To get into that chasna, when you got an invitation to that chasna, the invitation came with 1 ticket, or 2 tickets, or 3 tickets. If you got 3 tickets, you're welcome to the Kabbalah Spanim, and you're welcome to the Sudas Chasna, and you're welcome to the dancing afterwards. Some people got 1 ticket, some people got 2 tickets, and depending on which ticket you got, that was the part of the wedding that you were invited to, and that's what you were allowed in. The Chasna went on a whole night. Fartag, the Friedrich came to the second Mola Maimer, Ashabar Zachem V'Simcha, and the Chasna was pushed in the morning. They stayed in Varsha for a few days. I think they went back to Poland, they went back to Riga, before Shabbos. This was the story of the Rebbe's Chasana, the kids and Nimitz. So of course the stories that you have to say is, during the Chasana, the Friedrich Rebbe was in an incredibly good mood. The Friedrich Rebbe was sehr aufgelegt. And at one point during the Chasana, the Friedrich Rebbe took a tray, it was probably bigger than this, and he filled it with shot glasses. And he had on his left hand a towel, like a waiter. And the glasses, there was probably somebody helping him. And there's glasses on the tray. And he would fill the glasses with Bramfen. And he went from table to table. Friedrich Rebbe went from table to table. And everyone took a glass and said, L'chaim to Friedrich Rebbe. Und ungewünschen dem Rebbe. Und der Rebbe hat sei ungewünschen. And the mood was something else. It was Simcha and Ahava. It was a Gilui. It was a special Gilui. So our Rebbe, the Rebbe says, he was sitting at the head table. The Rebbe the Friedrich gets up and he starts to serve. But I went from table to table. It took a Meshach's man. So the Rebbe said, I wanted to help the Friedrich Rebbe. So I got up. And I figured I'll hold the bottle, I'll hold the tray, I'll hold the extra glass. I got to do something. And the Friedrich Rebbe says, the Rebbe I've made a kugetan. And the Chus Daimel Melech, you know that the Chas was like a king for a few days. The Friedrich took a look at the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, as I sat back down, ich bin gesessen auf Spielkis, I sat on pins and needles, bis der Rebbe, der Schwert, sich zurück weggesetzt, und Mamshach gewinnt der Simchas Chassan Lakala. He went from table to table to table. And of course, the end of the room with the Bachrim, Tem Chatmimim. When it came to the Bachrim, the Rebbe said, you are not giving mashke. I'm going to give the mashke to your mashpia. Your madrich. I think it was Rabbi Alter Simchovich was the mashpia in the yeshiva then.
What's the name?
Rabbi Alter Simchovich. I could be wrong. If anybody wants to correct me, you're free to correct me. I think it was Rabbi Alter. Later, but this was earlier.
The Eben Afinai was, the Rebbe asked what he said. Could we?
Which Eben Apina?
Alter Simchovich? No?
He passed away in 1939.
Somebody?
Rabbi Alter Simchovich. He was a very big chassid about Simchovich.
Yeah, the Shah Fitbin.
So he said. So the Rebbe said, "I'm going to give the mashke to mashpiyim, and they'll give you l'chaim, and then you'll say l'chaim together." And the Rebbe spoke to them. Asicha, weißt doch was loshen? Adam kiyamas ba'el, ein atayim es kayemes el b'misha meimes asmi aleha. But at some point during this hakafa, the Rebbe Toys Girof and the Friedrich Rebbe announced as biti nasati leish. The Friedrich Rebbe said, as biti nasati leish, I have given my daughter to an ish. So there's a very interesting letter. Reb Leivik, the Rebbe's father was not at the wedding, writes to the Rebbe, and he says to the Rebbe, every nice thing the Friedrich Rebbe told you, I want to know. Every compliment, every nice word, I want to know. Just like there's beating a satel, apparently the Rebbe got there's beating a satel ish from somebody else. So he writes to his son, the Rebbe, he says that just like he said there's beating a satel ish, mistamed, there were other diburim. I want to hear every word, and don't keep any secrets, and don't hide. I'm your father, I'm entitled to know. It's a printed letter. Rebbe Leivik writes that Rebbe behalt sich nicht. I want to know all the things the Frierdiker Rebbe said. I mean, the other thing that we know from this chasana, and they didn't, in the early years, they were afraid to print it, because they say that a good makar. It's one of those stories that everybody knows. That before the chuppah, the Frierdiker Rebbe they went to a room, too great. I mean, the way the Rebbe behaved, everything was very precise. L'mashal, I'll say this first, that when the Chassan Kala, after the chuppah, they went into the yichud room, so many people went in, and they said Mazel Tov, and the Frierdiker Rebbe told people to leave in increments. The Frierdiker Rebbe ran the show. You leave, you leave, you leave. The Frierdiker Rebbe himself, he poured for the Chassan Kala tea, and he was the last person to walk out of the room. But there was a whole seder how he told people to depart until the Chassan Kala were left alone. But before the chuppah, they had the preparations for the chuppah. And the Rebbe took a gartel, the Frierdiker Rebbe took a gartel, and he tied the Rebbe with the gartel. And he said, the truth is I should make a bracha, Oizer Yisrael B'Gvura. But I already made the bracha in the morning, and I'm assuming from that lashon that he had it in mind. And he said to the Rebbe, and this is the one story that people don't want to say they know for sure, you know. It's for sure, it's for sure, it's for sure. Midem bindich, dich zu mir und mich zu dir, bazel baba. With this gadol, I'm binding you to me and me to you, bazel baba. In this world and the next world, the Rebbe tied the Rebbe in a gadol. So the way the story goes, he made everybody leave. He made everybody leave. Rebbe Avram Schneerson, his shver was there, and Elichaim. The two people he allowed to stay when he put the gadol on the Rebbe was Rebbe Avram Schneerson and Rebbe Elichaim. I'm assuming Rebbe Elichaim to tell the Maisa, but I don't remember if it's in the letter or not. But they didn't want to print it. They put it in the ha'ara. In the early years, everything has to have a raya, mochachas, veistach. But this is the story. But there were other l'shaynis, as Frierdiker Rebbe. By the Rebbe's chasana, there was verschiedene l'shaynis, and the Rebbe didn't even notice. It's not the du, ich nicht ihr, du, ich mit dir und dir mit mich. There was no ihr. Du mit ich mit dir, dir mit mich und mich mit dir. Bazel baba. One of the stories that people tell is that the Meir Shapiro came to the chasana. The Meir Shapiro came to the chasana. He was the Gedali Adar. He was not a Rebbe, but it's the Gedali Poilin. A lot of people came, and Acham Zemba came, a lot of big Gedolim came, and so the Sacher Rebbe sind gekommen, und die Prophet sind nicht gekommen, haben geschickt Schluchim. So the Frierdiker Rebbe sat the Meir Shapiro down next to the Rebbe. The Meir Shapiro was a Meir Shapiro. He was one of a kind. You know that the Rebbe said in a sikh upstairs that he's surprised that the Misnagdim accepted the Dafayemi, because the Miyasa Dafayemi was a Meir Shapiro. This is the Rebbe's word. Uneregeven gor achsidish shirid. The Rebbe said, gor achsidish shirid. The Rebbe says, gor achsidish shirid. The Rebbe knows what he's talking about. You understand? The Rebbe knew him. The Rebbe didn't say he was a god. He was a very big god. Gor, the Rebbe said, you can't get a bigger compliment than that. Gor achsidish shirid. He was by the Rebbe's chassan. Frierdiker put him next to the Rebbe. So the Frierdiker Rebbe wanted a Meir Shapiro to list Haisal Kankane, to check him out, to see who the Rebbe is. And the Rebbe schweigt. So the Meir Shapiro said to the Frierdiker Rebbe, he's a Godish, he's quiet. So the Rebbe said to the Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe, Zog, speak. And they spoke for a little while. At the end of the conversation, the Meir Shapiro tells the Frierdiker Rebbe, Lubavitch Rebbe, it's a Genuman an Eidim Agon Elu. Lubavitch Rebbe is a Genuman Eidim Agon Elu. There's the Meiser Chasana. The end of the Chasana was they got married. And they moved to Riga. They moved back to the Frierdiker Rebbe. And they wouldn't let him stay in the country. They wouldn't let him stay in the country. So they had no choice. They stayed till Oder Mistama. They stayed in Riga as long as they could. And they had no choice. And that's when they moved to Berlin. So now I'll tell you Alosh Nahara Mais. In other words, until now it was boring, not Alosh Nahara Mais. I gossip. You should know, if you think about the story, it's Mamish Gita Terezel. There's a letter from Rebbe Leivik. to the Rebbe, written in Oder. The Rebbe married KISLEV. How much time is in KISLEV and Oder? KISLEV, Tev, Shvat, Oder. In the most, it's 3 months. It can't be more than 3 months. There's a letter from the Rebbe's father to the Rebbe dated Oder Tafresh Pei Tes, the year of the wedding. And it's clear from the letter that it's the fourth in a sequence. The fourth in a sequence. But the first 3 letters you don't have. What are the letters about? The Rebbe Chaim Mushka got married to the Rebbe. The Rebbe Chaim Mushka married to the Rebbe, yeah. So, I mistama, they didn't date like we date, you understand? They didn't exactly spend 15 hours together. You're talking, the whole Indian of Tznius was a whole nother level. The Rebbe married the Rebbe, and she found out who the Rebbe was after they got married. And she found out that he's a very difficult man to be married to. They're not sleeping, she probably was used to. They're not eating. Bottom line is, the Rebbetzin let the Rebbe know, and I, in my imagination, and this is really, really bad, she probably thought that, the way her mother talks to her husband, she'll talk to her husband. She told the Rebbe, I'm your wife. I wasn't there by the conversation. This is all my imagination. Okay, I got to take care of you. You got to eat. And the Rebbe didn't say, I won't eat. He said, you're right. He smiled very warmly, and he continued fasting. Anyway, I don't know how long it went on, but she massed. She wrote a letter to the Rebbe's father, the Rebbe Daf Essen. Aminut. So the Rebbe's father writes a letter to the Rebbe. It's a second letter. I got a report. We don't have that letter. The first letter, obviously, we don't have. It was written to Russia. But the second, we don't have either. So the Rebbe wrote his letter back a letter, and you could see this from the letter that we do have. And the Rebbe writes to his father, from I'm not going to say much, she had no right to tell you. My wife is to keep my secrets. The Tanish Maserin. It was the Greis Aver, the Gemaset, and the Rebbe asked nicht and schlaft nicht. So the Rebbe writes, the Rebbe's father writes back. This is the fourth letter. And this letter we have. And he writes to the Rebbe, no. She has every right to tell me. I'm happy that she told me. And I told her she should continue masering when you probably start to Chassidish Shnik. And the Rebbe says, the Rebbe writes to the Rebbe's father writes that you have to start eating. Kim Dumani, Sha'adayin, Lo Higia, Ligvorase, Shel Shimshon. I think that you haven't become yet as strong as Shimshon Agibir. Das Tonei Bessen. Now, I don't know the end of that story, but I think we know the end of that story. The Rebbe continued not eating, and that, when the Rebbe told the Rebbe what to do, the Rebbe said, yeah, very good idea, and he did whatever he wanted. Anyway, this was their relationship, you understand? What do you learn? You rest, and you schlaft. Anyway, so Baruch Hashem, I thank the Meibishten. There was a Yid in Lubavitch, his name was Osher Sasonkin, Osher Batumer. Anybody who's in my generation remembers him. Osher Sasonkin was a Chassidish Yid. He was a very Varma Yid, a very Heitzke Yid. What we didn't necessarily know about him was I understood, Shmenel Batumer was a God. His father was a big Talmid Chacham. And Osher was the oldest. Osher was the Shames in 770. He cleaned up the Sfarim and he screamed, Lahadlik, Der, Chanukah. This was Osher Batumer. But he learned to cook at 8 in the morning. We say out the Yidden. Man gesagt, he had good linen. Man gesagt, he had fine linen. In 770, he was part of the furniture. He was a shtikel chassidus. He was fire. But people who knew him said that he was standing fine linen. But he was a very chassidish Yid. Anyway, so they had big FABRENGEN in 770. How often? A few times a year. In Unser Jahr, they make a big FABRENGEN, they make a stage, and they invite speakers, they put on food, and people would sit. So they did it, when they started Chedish KISLEV, the first time they made such FABRENGENs, Im Tane Goylem, like David Raskin wrote to the Rebbe, was the Chedish KISLEV. But then it became a Seder. The Chedish KISLEV, they did it. Mistava Yotes KISLEV. A few times a year, they'd make a big FABRENGEN. There'd be a dais. It was usually in Ma'ariv, if you remember. And there'd be tables. People would sit and speak. But he didn't know that he were the oif. He was Tane Goylem. It's one of the famous Lubavitcher jokes. But okay, if you don't get it, it's okay also. So So the same speaker every FABRENGEN, the same speaker every FABRENGEN, same speakers. And usually the same speakers are the same speech. In other words, every FABRENGEN, which was 4 times a year, Rabbi L'chaim spoke about his inyan, Rabbi Shia spoke about his inyan, Avraham Ayah spoke about his inyan. You do the speeches beforehand, all the same drashas. The only person who had a different drasha each time was Yankel Hecht. He's actually prepared. So the Draski used to scream at you like he always did. Everybody said the same drasha. And Osha Batuma had one drasha also. It didn't matter what time of year it was. You can hear the tapes, there's videos of him also. Eib nicht va tezvavel, wat nicht gewen ka Welt. Eib nicht va yebestamas, wat nicht gewen ka Welt. His speeches were not very long. Yeah. Eib nicht va yedalt KISLEV, wat nicht gewen ka Welt. Yedalt KISLEV is a very special day for us. It's a very important day. Yeah, Baruch Hashem. These days created our world. They created our reality. The Hezboninus Dav Zayin, Naboisai. The Hezboninus Dav Zayin. The issue that we need to consider is how important this is. How important our relationship with the Rebbe. How important the Rebbe is. How important. If I may speak of a Baal Batishbach, how important Yiddishkeit is, how important Torah, Avodah, everything holy and near and dear is important, and it all revolves around our relationship with the Rebbe, and it all revolves in a very real way around today, around Yedalt KISLEV. So then, l'chaim, the mashke is finished. Do you have any more Bram for me?
Yeah.
Any more? No, I need to have Gele.
David.
My brother says to me, Shalom, he said, obviously, so I don't even know.
David, we have more Gele?
You have any more of this?
More Gele, yeah.
Chaim, Rabbi Gele. Chaim, what's faster? I can't hear you. It was a fear to get Rebbe's father. Chaim was around. Kohen Tzedek.
Jesse, did you hear about after Never came to America, so he wasn't really in that room, right?
Who?
Rebbe.
Charlie.
After he came to America, that was his room, right? He didn't. So did you hear about that? Sometime after he came to America, someone didn't realize that during the day he doesn't need a meal.
He's a Shinor from Poland already.
No, I think that's how she realized it.
A lot.
Because the room was right
That's the sound of the flexing.
Chaim Levracha. It's a chassidische shul. It's a chassidische shul. Almost like Empire State.
Almost like Empire State.
Chaim David Shalom. Chaim Levracha. Chaim Levracha. No, Gamachi, you gotta let me do it. No, don't help me. No, don't help me. I'm good. Any help I need, I got Rabbi Garel.
I can see the paper.
I got Rabbi Garel.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Rabbi Shai, it's not like the week of the first of all, okay, the Chaim. Chaim Levracha. To the week of the Rebbe's Chassaneh, the Frierdiker Rebbe said 6 Maimorim. You know how I know? I wrote it down. The first Maimor was V'chol B'nayich. V'chol B'nayich was the Maimor of the Ufruf. And in the Maimor, the Rebbe actually explains the inyan of an Ufruf. The idea of V'chol B'nayich with Abshem B'nayich. There's two Madregas named the Torah, he says. Where a Yid is Makabel from the Torah, and where there's Atika B'nayich ala Boy Nayich. Where you just Mashpi in the Torah. And then you get an Aliyah. When you get an Aliyah to the Torah, you have an Aliyah. If you get an Aliyah to you have an Aliyah, it gives you a koyach to do in Yonah that you have to do. That Maimon the Rebbe said twice, once Shabbos and I think once Monday. I think they're called Chosan Mol. I don't know the details. We can cook and everything today is recorded. By the Maimon it says Chosan Mol. It says Shabbos Pashas Vayishlach Chosan Mol twice. He said it twice. No, Chosan Mol was Monday. It was the Sudas Aniyim, like the night before the Chuppah. I don't know what it was. Then by the Chas was 2 Maimonim. The beginning Chas was a short Maimer. To see how happy you are makes everybody happy. Which is based, I mean, all my bottom, you know where they come from. And then at the end of the Chas, they said Asher Bora. Asher Bora and the next one, Kolanena, are a Hemshach Tachsmir. Or Kolanena and Magaz Hemshach. So there was Asher Bora was the third Maimir, Kolanena was the fourth Maimir, Margal Bepuma Derav, Tachas, Chochma, Chuvas name was the fifth Maimir, and the last Maimir was Omer Abelazar. Mai Diksiv. Sitkas Pir Zoinoi mit a Reish. Yisrael, Staka Osa Kadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael, Shepizron mit a Zayin, the thing was Elam. It's a posik from Shiras Dvoira. It's a Gemara, in Pesach Pesachim. Omer Abba Ishye, Mai Diksiv Sitkas Pir Zoinoi, with a Reish before the Zayin. With like the word Perozis Teishu Rishalayim. Stok also Kadosh Baruch Hu Shepizron, which is not the same word. Pizron means Sefenandish Breiten. Like Piz in Nosan of Yoinim. Stok Kadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael Shepizron. So it's a Gemara. That's a mistake. Why? Because the Gemara is quoting a pasuk, but the interpretation of the pasuk is not based on what says in the pasuk. The pasuk says Perozes Teishu Rishalayim. And by the way, you want to hear a Geshmak Shtickle. Tovshin Chavtes, it is KISLEV. That Maimon, the Rebbe said it is KISLEV. The last Maimon, the Rebbe made it all KISLEV. The Maimon of Tzaka, this Maimon, Abba Rabbi said it is KISLEV. Bechal, it's a Maimon Amuzger. The Rebbe said gekocht in the Maimorim. The Maimorim that the Friedrich Rebbe said by the Rebbe's Chasana, and the truth is also the Maimorim of Peizayin, the Rebbe had a special geschmack. I once counted, I think it's like 30 Maimorim. If you count up all the L'chobanayachs, the L'chazeh is only one. And the Asher Boras, and the Kol HaNenes, and the Ikiras, the Amar Aveshis, the Magahum, the Ravas, it's like 30 Maimorim. Over the Meshach of the Rebbe's Nesias, the Rebbe repeated Maimorim at the Friedrich Rebbe said by his wedding, come upon him. You see, the Rebbe had him a koch. He was a Chassidish Yid also, you know. He was a Chassidish Yid. I have a great story. I think it's a great story. I heard the story from the Baal HaMaisa himself. I'm sorry that I digress, but that's what a FABRENGEN is. FABRENGENs are a digression from a digression. I used to sit by a Mendel for the fast. You want to know what torture is? The Mendel started a FABRENGEN. I talk very fast. I'd say too much. I ran out of material. The Mendel talked very slowly. And the Mendel was the master of FABRENGEN. He would come into a room and he'd sit down and he'd start telling a story. 2 seconds into the story, what's your name? You say L'chaim, you pick on somebody, he always had to have a korban. Because when I knew the Mendel, he couldn't drink anymore, someone had to drink for him. So he had to find that korban. So a whole night he was bothered to say L'chaim. He started to bring with a story. It's 2 o'clock in the morning and you want to go to sleep, but you want to wait till the end of the story. He'll finish it. The FABRENGEN started with a story at 9 o'clock at night. And very, very often, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, he still hadn't finished the story, and I can't go to sleep. He never finished. But anyway, so what was the story? I wanted to tell you a Maisa.
A good story.
I wanted a good story. What's the good story? Huh? Yeah, but what I had a really, really good story.
The digression, the Chassidus, the FABRENGEN is about the digression.
Oh, I had such a good story. I had such a good story to tell.
And you got this digressed.
Yeah, what I wanted to tell you, I want to tell you something very good. Because of all the money. Very good. Here's the story. I was FABRENGEN once in the 5 towns, and Label's this man Al Shalom was there. He was very close to the Shliach, Rabbi Velovik, Zalman. And he helped him a lot. And Label, Zisman was Ud Mutzal Mayesh Mamish. He came from the war. He was 15, 16 years old. He was a kind. His father was a big chassid. Tata gave him 5. The tata then gave him a chassid. His mother was a raskin. Spitz Chabad Mamish. But him and his brother survived. His brother gave him battle. They're both now Aleim HaShalom. They came to this country. It's a bracha and a mention, Mamish. And they made a life for themselves. At the Telt, I'm Musgir, but take Musgir. Battle got married right away. It's like Chasnikat. Label got married Tashni, they got married late. Label's Zisman. When he got married, he had already gone, he had smiche, he went to college, he learned a professor. Of the Yidden Kemen Kakashis. He was a brilliant man, he was very smart. So he was in mathematics and physics. Paltiel, he was a businessman, he needed his degree in college. But by his chassan, he went to the Rebbe with his kale. The pshat was not zweite, but these are the words. I heard it from him. I have a tape of it. I can send it to you if you want. Bist du a mathematiker? Cheshben zechayis a guten Leben. Bist du a mathematiker? Cheshben zechayis a guten Leben. I don't know what the kavanah was, but I'm sure it was love. You're a mathematician. Calculate for yourself a good life. That's the bist du a mathematiker. Cheshben zechayis a guten Leben. Anyway, so this labels this and told me a gewaldige meise. Him and his brother went into business, and they were very successful. They were very successful people. And they had brachas and Rebbe Nibben in Kop. They had mamish moifsim with the Rebbe Ubaldik. And the biggest moifis was, I'll tell you the story first. They listened. When you listen, it's good. You don't listen, it's a disaster. He told me I gotta have a recording of him telling the stories. They're all in his book, but I sat with him an hour and a half. He talked, and I actually kept quiet, and I listened. He talked. It was 87, Tafshem Mem Zayin, or Mem Chas already. And there was something called, I think called Miami Towers. 2 big buildings in Florida, which you would make an investment, and you could build it up, and you could make a Gorsach Geld. A couple of people had been involved in this project, and they had bankrupted. The project was half finished, and someone was trying to sell it, and there was an opportunity to buy it cheap and to finish the project, make a lot of money. And there were 5 investors. This goes back 35 years. Each one was going to put in $1 million, which was a lot of money. And he made a condition in the contract that without a bracha from the Rebbe, it's not happening. He was the shutef, his brother was the shutef, Shmuel Malamed the shutef, like Shtarek, and noch a paar Yidden. And it was in the contract that if the Rebbe doesn't approve, they're not doing the business. So he wrote to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe doesn't answer. So when he was a kid, he came from Europe. The Rebbe told him, "I'll do a sepes darfen of the kumen to mir." Anytime you need to come to me, and the Rebbe treated him mamish special. When you need something, come to me. The Rebbe told him, "I'll do a sepes darfen, come to me." Not to get that he shouldn't get an answer from the Rebbe was a pelle. Anyway, so he tells the chaver, we can't proceed until they get an answer. We're going to Michigan. The rabbi's going to bless it. What does the rabbi know about the 2 towers in Florida? He says, anyway, he wrote again, and he wrote again, and he wrote again, and he wrote again, and anyway, one morning comes into 770, and he says to Binyamin, I can't. I'm holding up this whole project, and I need an answer. The Rebbe had already gone to the mikveh. He was on his way out to the oil. Binyamin walked into the Rebbe, and he said, label needs an answer. The Rebbe used to use the flaps of envelopes. The Rebbe didn't throw anything away. A shmata papiro, a flap of an envelope, a piece of junk.
But he used to close, right? And
he wrote, Ma lahem u'lepiza nefesh alehem. Ma lahem, meaning, what are you going to Florida? You have enough business in New York. Ma lahem, there's the whole end. Ma lahem u'lepiza nefesh alehem. Maybe do a few more words. Like, what are you running to Florida? Binyamin walks out. The Rebbe went to the oil 2 minutes later. Binyamin walks out, hands with the paper. The answer made no sense because the business opportunity looked very, very good. And they were ready to Florida, plenty of business in New York. Anyway, he came back to the Chaver and says, I'm out. If he was out, Bedel was out. I'm assuming Shmuel was out. A few weeks later was the crash.
Stock market?
The stock market. They would have lost everything. Wait, but hey! Der Rebbe entfert nicht einmal. Und der Rebbe entfert nicht zweimal. Was ist der Pshat? Was ist der Pshat? Und sagt, without a money from the Rebbe, and it give my notion. I'll tell you, this is Mamish Lashon Hara.
The towers of real estate in Florida.
Huh?
Was the stock
stock market crash have to do with real estate in Florida?
Because no one's buying a real estate. Ich verstehe wenig if you do in economia. But when the market crashes and you borrow money from the bank and you can't pay it back, you go bankrupt. And they don't just take the $1 million. They take your hand and your foot and your whole goof. When the market crashes and you have debts and you can't cover them, it's like your shoes. Okay, just your pants, not your shoes. But the point is, that I but nigga effort. Einmal, zweimal, dreimal, viermal. What the pshat? What the pshat? And this guy on our board, I'm a den chlemished. He says, if the Rebbe doesn't answer, I'm not going in. And it's the story. Anyway, the other story. I want to tell Lishon Hara, I'll save it for another time. There's a Maisa, you see, but he listened. So the story with labels this one that I need to tell you is the following story. Him and his brother, I mean, they came from Lubavitch. They came from Spitz Chabad Mamish. Their father was a big chassid. You know what story with their father? With the father came from Russia. He came from Russia. Agana Oisha, he was a rich man. And the Rebbe was traveling. I mean, he traveled through Europe. Every 15 minutes in another country. And the Rebbe was on a train. And people got on the train to see the Friedrich Rebbe. And people came in one by one. In the train, the problem is they're getting close to the border. So Fiverr gets out of the train and he goes over to the conductor and he says to the conductor, the train is broken. So the conductor tells him the train is not broken. So he gives him a sach geld. He says, the train is broken. The train is broken. So the guy says, the train is broken. And the train is sitting. And the Friedrich Rebbe realized the train's not moving. So the Fiverr walks the Friedrich Rebbe, and one by one they're going to Yechidus. And the Rebbe says, what's the Geshen? He says, the train is broken. Wie lange dem zu fixen? So Fiverr said, when the Rebbe tasten. When the Rebbe tasten, the train will be fixed. This was Fiverr. And if you knew Label, you saw his father with him. So here's his story. They were in real estate. And I mean, New York City in the 1970s, 80s was a churban. And you couldn't make any money, and you could never. They figured out a way how to work with the government and to build. They made a lot of money. They built projects, built buildings that were burnt out, and they whatever they did with them, they sold them, they made rentals. Them good for did. But their shita was when they finished a project, they would bring into the Rebbe a shopping bag of cash. Mizuman. In other words, the Rebbe could do with the money what he wants. This money has no strings. And I'm sure it wasn't $50. It was a lot of money. So he tells me they took on a project in Manhattan and they signed a contract. And when they examined the project more closely, they realized this project is so messed up. There's so many liens. There's so many alta cheshbonos. This one owns it, this one owns it, this one owns it. The government owns it, the state, the federal, the city. Everyone's got a piece of it. You'll never get out of this mess. In other words, it's a bankrupt situation. It's meant to stay bankrupt. Chas v'shai, you try to take out bankruptcy, someone else will bankrupt you because there's so many people who have a claim. And they realize that they were in over their heads. So Label says to Battle, I have an idea. Let's bring the Rebbe the money now, before the project starts. Mm-hmm. And if the Rebbe asks, we'll tell the Rebbe we're taking out insurance. Taking out insurance. Taking out insurance. So they come into Binyamin with a big shopping bag full of cash, and they give it to Binyamin to find an Rebbe. So Binyamin says to them, you just recently brought in money, or you just finished, you're just starting a new one. So tell them, I said, they got involved in a project, and they realized that this is terrible. There's no way to get out of this project alive. It's a mess. So they decided to take out insurance. And he tells Binyamin, if the Rebbe asks, tell the Rebbe we're taking out insurance, not today's insurance. So Binyamin walks into the Rebbe, Binyamin, all of our Shav, Binyamin Klein. Huh? The train is broken. And he goes into the Rebbe and he says, it's for a battle and label. So the Rebbe says to Binyamin, so he tells him what he said, that they took on this project, and they realized after they got involved that there's huge, everybody's got a claim to this place, there's no way you get out of this alive. So taking out insurance. And you know what the answer was? For 3 seconds, Rebbe wasn't a Rebbe, it was a chassid. What a chap! In other words, the Rebbe didn't answer like a Rebbe, he answered like a chassid. What an idea! Azag. So he tells me we never had a project with fewer problems than that one. Azag gewaltig, I'm sorry. But the Rebbe's reaction, Azag gewaltig, the Rebbe answered, Nifya Rebbe Chosid. What a chap! You know, what an idea! And it worked. Anyway, getting back to the Maimorim. The Rebbe hat sich stark gekocht. The Rebbe hat sich stark, in the Maimorim of Chasna, hat sich stark gekocht. How many times did the Rebbe say, Omer Rabbi Tzitzi ben Yisrael? Many times. Rave Chazar, it got in Margam with the Rave, Asher Bara. The Rebbe said, I think it's close to 30. I once counted. They gave out, you could buy in the store a kuntis, a sefer. My mother's Rusha Chasna from the Rebbe's own Chasna. It's a lot of my mother. I think it's close to 30. So I wanted to say this before I go to my point. In Tovshin Chavtes was 30 years. Tovshin Chavtes was the 30th wedding anniversary of the Rebbe. And the Rebbe said the Maimon Magil Hum the Rebbe. That Maimon is Prozis Teisha B'Shleim. Prozis Teisha B'Shleim. For those who do not know, the Rebbe had a big koch to bring new Nagunim to Lubavitch. In the early years, the Rebbe himself provided the new Nagunim. In Tavshach Chai, the Rebbe said, Butler say the Nagunim, that the Rebbe is not teaching any more Nagunim. But he used to ask, the Rebbe wanted, Mendel Marozov, the Rebbe asked him, the Rebbe wanted to add more Nagunim to Lubavitch. When they came from Eretz Yisrael, the Rebbe always used to ask, Mizimras ha'aretz. The Rebbe used to ask, they should bring the Nagunim, Mizimras ha'aretz, Eretz Yisrael. If you brought a nigga to the Rebbe and you wanted it to stick, it was a very simple rule. What was the rule? Make it happy. One of the verschleppte, depressing, did a shish in the gun and forget about it. A freilige nigga and it was in. You know, remember? You remember Tess? Ha! You know that story? Harabi Shlita. Harabi Shlita is a jingle from a commercial in Israel that's selling I don't know what. So in Eretz Yisrael, they made in camp. They took the tune and they put it to the words of Rabbi Shlita. Yisrael Duchman used to get shikir every Simchas Torah, and he davened Musaf, and he was carrying Sefer Torah, Mashiach Sefer Torah, back to the Aron, and he starts singing Rabbi Shlita. He had a very Yisrael Duchman had a very interesting relationship with the Rebbe. He had a very intimate relationship with the Rebbe. So he starts singing Rabbi Shlita. The whole school was singing Shah, because it was an embarrassment. But this is a Chassidish niggin. It's a commercial. It's a commercial, and so for children, I don't know what. It's and he's singing the whole group Shah 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 till he gets to until he gets to the point that and all of a sudden it becomes a Lubavitcher niggin. A freilich niggin. You wanted a niggin to stay. If you're a freilich niggin, it's stuck. So the people brought Nagunim. So when he brought to the Rebbe, it's old Yerushalayim song. It's not about Shireen. It's an old niggin. It's a Yerushalayim niggin. The Rebbe said the Maim, yes? And by the way, you have to hear the tape. You can listen to the tape. When you listen to the tape, the speaker vibrates. The speaker, the noise is so loud. The Rebbe said the Maimer. And after the Maimer, they start singing this tune. Now, I wasn't there. Tavshach Chavtes was 3.5. But you could hear what must have been going on in 770. The element claimed, Tavshach Chavtes, 770 was, 1,000 people? How many people do you think there were by a big Fabrengen? Maybe 1,000 of us. But the Rebbe was making, whatever was going on, you listen to the tape, you could just imagine, and in the middle of the niggin, you hear the Rebbe shouting. It was either to Rabbi to Moshe Talshevsky. After singing, zustellen dem Niggin zu der Werte Protestation, to Maimer. Mai Dixiv. Sitkas Perzeine Yisrael, Stoka, Osaka, the Shbachel, Shapizron, it was Elam. So protestation. So as the FABRENGEN goes on, you hear Moshe Talshevsky trying to make protestation. So first it doesn't go so good. By the time the FABRENGEN is over, protestation is born. But it's sweet to listen. It came from a Maimer. The Rebbe said a Maimer. Sitkas Pirzeni Yisrael. I just want you to know, I'm a businessman. My business, I'm a very lucky guy. My business is I teach Chassidus. So I have to be ahead of the crowd. So I'm already looking at Basi Lagani, because the guys want Basi Lagani early. This is Tashach of Daled. So the Rebbe said the Basi Lagani 3 times. We only have one of them. The FABRENGEN and Matzah Shabbos. The Rebbe said Friday night a Maimed. There used to be Maimed Friday night. They would come to Shul, and he would go to the front, and they would do Kabbalah Shabbos. And before Mid-Mishal, like it was about the Friedrich Rabbi in the olden days, they would go to the middle of the Shul. The whole Shul was smaller. Chavdal, the Shul was smaller. And he would sit down in his place. He said, "Amai, Basi Lagani." I don't even know if it was a niggun. Basi Lagani. He said, "Friday night is my Basi Lagani." Shabbos day, it was B'Shalach. B'Shalach. Yud Shvat is either Boya B'Shalach. When the Friedrich passed away, it was Shabbos Pashas Boy. In Chav Dalid, it was B'Shalach. The Haftarah B'Shalach is Shiras Dvoira. This pasuk is in Shiras Dvoira. So the Rebbe started the Maimer Omar Rabbi. In other words, the Maimer from the Rebbe's Chasna, the Rebbe said at Yud Shvat. Yutas KISLEV, the Rebbe got married Yudal KISLEV. Yutas KISLEV was 5 days later, the Rebbe said the Maimer Omar Rabbi Tzidkes Pezen Yisrael. But in Tavshach of 1964, that means this year, 60 years ago, the Rebbe said Shabbos the Maimer Omar Rabbi Maidik Siv. And in the middle of the Maimer, the Rebbe said, Lahav and Zeh Yash Lahag the Mashakosa Basi Lagani. So Shabbos afternoon, the Rebbe said Hakdama to the Basi Lagani, this Maimer, from his Chazaneh, from his Shalom Brachas. Maidik Siv to Yisrael. It's if you have the Sefer, they gave us our kuntas, you can buy it, you can get it for free. Lach is giving it away. 4 pages, and then the Rebbe starts saying Basi Lagani. Matzah Shabbos, the Rebbe said Basi Lagani a 3rd time, and there's a tape of that, obviously. So that Maimer we have. This, when they gave out the Maimer, Teres Menachem, they have, Rabbi Yael had, so I'm lifting a name, Rabbi Yael had in his house, the Shemis, that he wrote, the Rebbe said the same Maimer 3 times. Friday night, Shabbos afternoon, and Matzah Shabbos. The chilik was that Shabbos afternoon he started Amar Rabbi, but a little bit into the Maimer, the Rebbe started saying Basi Lagani. But there was Shinuyim. If you say, the Rebbe says the same Maimer 3 times, which was normal. Basi Lagani very often, the Rebbe said the same Maimer twice. But there was Shinuyim. So we don't have the Maimorim. But Rabbi Yael wrote down for himself the Shinuyim. And if you look at the Hanocha that they gave out, Teres Menachem, you have the Maimer. It's 18 pages long. 18 pages is a long Maimer. So you have the Maimer with all the notes from Rabbi Yael, from the parts that the Rebbe, I'm assuming that there probably was more. I'm imagining probably more. L'chayda, we're missing something. Anyway, but the point is, the Rebbe in that year, Yud Shvat, which this year is going to be 60 years ago, the Rebbe said one of the Maimorim of his Shabbat Brachas. My diksiv tzidkas pirzeine Yisrael stock asa kadosh b'yisrael shapizra lebeinu Israel. So I want to share with you the vart. So whatever. It's that's a Yud Shvat Maimer. It's about bizbaz ha'etzes. You're welcome to learn. I need to be prepared because I have to record the classes now, because if I wait till Yud Shvat, people are going to complain. Where's the Maimer? So I'm a little bit ahead. But the Rebbe said the Maimer on Yud Shvat, which is one of the Shel Brachas, my brother. So what's talking the pshat? The pasuk says, Tzidkas pir zeine Yisrael. Hashem does a tzedakah that Yidden are pir zeine. Pir means spread out. And the Gemara misquotes the pasuk. It doesn't make sense. It's pasuk pshat in the Gemara. It doesn't make sense. The pasuk says Tzidkas pir zeine Yisrael, and the Gemara says tzedakah asa kadosh baruch Hu shepizron. Pizron and pirzon are 2 very different words. Pirzon means that you live spread out. You know what it means? You don't have to live together. Everyone lives by himself because you have no fear. When Yidden live in Eretz Yisrael and you're not even afraid of fear, you don't have to live close. Everybody lives in their own place. I live in my house, you live in your house. Between my house and yours can be a half a mile, and no one is worried what's going to happen. Someone is going to sneak in. That's like ish tachas gafne, ish tachas seinos. That's what it means. And that's the meaning of prazois. Prazois is teisha v'shalayim, which is lashon pasuk. Stalker sitkas pir zoynai with the reish before the zayin means Hashem was so kind to the Jews that Jews do not have to live together. We don't have to live in communities. Der lebt da, der lebt dort. Everyone lives by himself. Your nearest neighbor is a half mile away, and you don't have to worry. Why? Because there's nothing to be afraid of. The Eibush heat, it's good. It's where it's supposed to be. That's how Eretz Yisrael. That's how Eretz Yisrael is supposed to be. That's how Eretz Yisrael is supposed to be. It says that Rabbi darf mehr haben. A Yid darf herausgehen in Gas. The Rebbe said once in the FABRENGEN that in this time, an Arab man saw an Israeli child that hung him to Israel. When instead, an Israeli Jew sees an Arab child, haped it on Israel. And the Rebbe said, what's going on? In Eretz Yisrael, a Yid has to be a big, tough Arab man. He's a little 4-year-old. Boichikul, mit Payalach, Tafarim Treislin. And that's the Taich. Prozois. So the Pasuk says Prozois. And the Gemara answers, Staka Osaka Kodesh Baruch Hu, Shepizron, with the Zion before the Resh. So the Maimon is asking this kasha. And the answer is Pashat. That in order to be zeichet the Prozois Teisha Yerushalayim darf man gehen in Gottes. That's the answer. That he says, Yidden go all over the world. And weißt du, der gele Bavaria, der gele Saramati, whatever the shades he brings, he brings Sumatra. Whoever heard of Sumatra? The man brings Sumatra. Sumatra is an island in Indonesia. The man brings Sumatra. Bottom line is, Yidden gave verspätet with the ganze Welt. Yidden spread all over the world. And of course, the way the Maimon explains it is that if Chas v'Shalom, a Jew in one place, don't think I didn't see. I saw you there and I saw you there. My heart is full. When you're here, my heart is full. When you're here, my heart is full. Baruch Hashem. And I think your heart is also full. You meet by Chassidische FABRENGEN, whether you like it or not. The upper case is going to melt. He's not going to have answers to his question. He's just going to melt. He's going to go away. He's going to go away. Yasaleh, I love you as much as you love me. Which is a lot, I know. Which is a lot. I know. Thank you for coming and sticking around. Chazak. Okay. So the Rebbe says, the Gemara says that the Eibush spreads Jews around in the whole world. That if in one part of the world, Yidden are suffering, in a different part of the world, Yidden doing Torah mitzvahs. And the way it works is that in that other part of the world, the Yidden are doing Torah mitzvahs on behalf of the Yidden who say, do mitzvahs. Maimer Amuzger, but it's there, there's a Moirendiki Yechidus from the Rebbe, unbelievable from the Rebbe, which was published in the old Sefer Yechidus from Harav Glitzenstein. And I made now 3 krachim, but before he made 3 krachim, I had 1 krach Sefer Yechidus. Harav Glitzenstein was a Chassidish Yid, for those who don't know. And he was a Kasver Rabbi. And he wrote the way you're supposed to write. So he has a Sefer called Yechidus. Now it's in 3 volumes, I think. And in this Sefer Yechidus, he has a description. The Rebbe sent Shmuel Azimov Alavashom to France. Shmuel Azimov to France. Yeah. And he worked with the Moroccans. The Friedrich Rebbe and the Rebbe sent Shluchim to Morocco in the early 50s. And you come from that Shlichus, huh? You come from that Shlichus.
No, next one.
So, I understand, but it's a hemshech. And when they moved, when the Moroccans left Morocco, if they didn't go to Yisrael, they went to France. So the Rebbe was a hemshech of the shlichus. And the hatzlacha of Shmuel Azimov was, people say, he's the most successful shlich in the world. The hatzlacha was not to be believed. The hatzlacha was mamish peladik. And he had special heroes. Shmuel Azimov specialized. He had heroes. All the ideas that he used, what now shluchim call, what do they call it? In America, they do it, when you get your balabat to do mitzvah film. The Rebbe told Mullah Azimov that he should teach the chevra, he's makarev, that they should teach others. That's what the whole, that shlichus was so successful. It was directed at us from the Rebbe, that he should teach the young light, not they should come through. They should teach other people. And he created a whole, a domino effect of Tirov. The shlichus was unbelievably successful. Bottom line is, he started bringing people to the Rebbe. And bringing them to the Rebbe was a big deal. Coming from France to the Rebbe in those days was very expensive. One of the most interesting things was, if you came to the Rebbe from France, at any time during the year, you ready for this? Mm-hmm. The Rebbe paid half of the traveling expenses. Half. If the ticket was $500, the Rebbe paid $250. Anybody who came, Chaget from the Lapkovskis, the Rebbe vergeben Geld, hat man es genommen. When the Rebbe gives you money, you take it. Aber in Yechidus, sagt man, abgeben zurück als Maimid. You didn't want to take the Rebbe's money. There's an old, the Rebbe gets that from them. The Rebbe gives you take. Everybody who came to the Rebbe from France, any time of the year, all the years, the Rebbe paid half Bechlal. It's a Dava Yadua. When people came to the Rebbe used to give them a lot of money. The Rebbe said, and they come into the Rebbe, you couldn't plan on it. The Rebbe didn't say before. But very often in Yechidus, the Rebbe would say, I want to be Mishtatev in the Nesiya. He didn't give you $10. He gave you $500, which was a quarter of the Eitzah, half of the Eitzah. But from France, it was a constant. Everybody who came to the Rebbe from France got half the Eitzah. So the Chassidish Bachrim, the Lubavitchers, they took the money from the Rebbe, and they would give it back to the Rebbe. But the Balei Tshuva, they couldn't afford to come. So the fact that the Rebbe would have to travel, it made it easy for them to come. They'd come to the Rebbe. So the first time he brought a group was Tov Shin Chav Ches. It was 11 or 12 boys. I think in Chav Ches there was still 2 Yechidus. When you came to the Rebbe for Tishrei, you have to read, you have to read Zalman Jaffe's Sfarim. Zalman Jaffe describes, Zalman Jaffe was a real human being, and he describes the Rebbe, the Yud and the Chavs. If you want to feel 770 in those years from a person who, a simple man, but he describes it very genuinely as Zalman Jaffe. When you came to the Rebbe in Yenei Yorim, you had 2 Yechidus. When you came, you had a short Yechidus. It was a hello, a shalom aleichem. And before you left was a long Yechidus. And the long Yechidus could be even hours. I think in Chav Ches it was still that way, but I'm not sure. The whole group, the whole kfutz that he brought, Mullah Azima, was 12 people. It was a lot. In Tov Shin Chav Ches it was a lot. And one of them, listen to this, one of them went into the Rebbe Yechidus, and he asked the Rebbe, why you have to have a Rebbe?
What do you have to have a
He
Rebbe?
asked the Rebbe, why you have to have a Rebbe? He asked the Rebbe, why you have to have a Rebbe? It's a good kasha. But he asked the Rebbe. So the Rebbe told him, that there's a Yid in Russia. This is 1968. The Yid in Russia, as they used to say in the Soviet Union, Morer hab mi gehat wie viel Anashir. Morer they had without a limit, you understand? Morer hab mi gehat Anashir. In Ina Mesiras Nefesh, that they sehr reich. But in the Indian of Kiyam HaMitzvahs Maisias, and they sehr Orem. They're probably Yidden in Russia with all the best intentions that maybe the tzitzis were not kosher. Or the tefillin were not kosher. Certainly not mahadrin. They couldn't get. As they come in tefillin in America, it was a mess. They had what they had. And tefillin, tefillin work. Tefillin can't possibly, you can't fix them. It's like I say for day, you can't fix it. You have to find out ahead to be able to fix it, It's not mamish puzzle. There's one day husband and wife is still kosher. Come and verrichten. Yidden did what they did. Man liked film, but you can't. But you can't. It was a lot of it was b'diavad. Und matzeh redt man nicht. So the Rebbe said the Yidden in Rusland, in the Inyan of Mesiras Nefesh, they have lechatchila sheba lechatchila. But in the mitzvahs maisias, doing mitzvahs practically, and we're going out to Chanukah. We're into Lubavitcher. When you say Chanukah, Lubavitcher, what's the next words? Mahadrin, Mina, Mahadrin. They didn't have Mahadrin, Mina. They didn't have Mahadrin. They had nothing. Whatever they had. And the Rebbe said, we live here in America, or in France, or in Israel, wherever we live. Here, we're able to do mitzvahs l'chatchila. The tefillin are proper tefillin, the tzitzis proper tzitzis, the matzah is proper matzah, the sukkah is a kosher sukkah, the lulav is a kosher lulav, this is a kosher lulav. It's mitzvahs, wie selbst will. But the Inyan of Mesiras Nefesh we don't have. And then the Rebbe said to him, he spoke to him in French, I'm assuming, the Yid in Russia is connected to me. And the Yid in America is connected to me. And then the Rebbe lowered his voice. That's how the story is told. You can read it in the book. You don't have to believe in Koken Innovating. Again, I'm assuming it was in French, but in my head I hear it in Yiddish. Und ich weiß, wie zu reden in Himmel. I know how to speak in the heavens. So I connect the Yid in Russia to the Yid in America, and the Yid in America to the Yid in Russia. So the Yid in America has the Mila of Mesiris Nefesh, and the Yid in Russia has the Mila of doing mitzvahs and Eifen of Mahadim and Mahadim. It's a printed Yichid. It's cooking in a venik. It's a gedrukte Zach. The young man who told that story to Hadim Samah ben Shivim, he's not a young man, but he was a Chassidish Bacher, l'choyda to Emes HaMaisa. That's what Rebbe said. The Yid in Russia is connected to me. And the Yid in America is connected to me. And then the Rebbe said softly, and I know how to speak in the heavens, so I connect the Yid in America to the Yid in Russia, and the Yid in America has the Mila of Mesiris Nefesh. You know what Mesiris Nefesh means. From the Yid in Russia. And the Yid in Russia has the Mila of doing mitzvahs behider because it's connected to Yid in America. And this is the Gemara. Staka osa kadosh baruch hu liyisol shapizron es efanande gespreit. Hashem scatters Yidden all over the world. If you here, you live here, you somewhere else. And in some places, Yidden are sitting and learning and davening, no one's bothering them. In other places, it's difficult. And one Yid is Mazaka second Yid. And the second Yid is Mazaka the first Yid. So the Pshat and the Pasuk, until Mashiach comes. My Diksiv. Sitkas Pir Zene Yisrael. So the Rebbe says, how are we going to be Zoiche? Lo Asid Lave, to Praze is Teshav Yerushalayim. It's because now we have Pizren. That's how the Gemara goes. The Frierdiker Rebbe is explaining the Gemara. Because the Gemara is a kasha. Lo Asid Lave. Yidden are going to live in Eretz Yisrael, Tachas Gaver, Tachas Teinasa, you're going to live, the closest neighbor is going to be half a mile away. You're not going to be afraid of the Fedouin, and there's Schwarze Yad, Pavos. How are we Zoiche to Prozois with the Reish before the Zayin? Because of the Pizra on the Zayin before the Reish. It's one of my mom that Rebbe said in the Chassan. So, I mean, if you're misboining in it, sure, you see this also in the Ramban Yud Bis Tammuz. The Memorim that the Rebbe said by the Rebbe's Chassan. So the Rebbe, Omar Abba Yishe, there must be 5 or 6 or more. The Rebbe said mine many times. There's a couple of Mugadik in my Memorim. Chavtes is Muga. I think Lametes also, but I could be wrong about that. The Rebbe said this Maimer Kama V'Kama Pomim. And you almost feel like you look at the Maimorim that the Rebbe said by the Rebbe's, that the Frierdiker Rebbe said by the Rebbe's Chassan, you see the Rebbe's Avodah. You see the Rebbe's Inyanim. And the way the Rebbe reviewed the Maimorim, the way the Rebbe chazed them up, they started explaining the Maimorim, you see that the Rebbe understood it this way. You understand that the Maimorim that the Frierdiker by his Chassan are Nager in his Inyan. And you see it also by Nager to the Maimorim Yubis Tammuz. Like a Maimer. It's the same Teuchen. Gefen mi Mitzrayim Tasiya. It's unbelievable. The Frierdiker Rebbe is sitting in Russia. He's still in Kastrama, and it says Gefen mi Mitzrayim Tasiya. It's a mashal for Yidden. If you want to have good grapes, so come on, based on a pasuk. If you want to have good grapes, what do? You plant them in one place. You let them grow a little, and you pick them up, and you move them someplace else, and you replant them. The Eibush takes Yidden. Pflanzt die ein, der Platz, sie wachsen ein bisschen, noch schneit man sie, und man kleibt sie in den zweiten Platz. He's pushed the Frierdiker Rebbe in Pezayin, was the professor of Maimer, Mamish literally days, he's before he was released from prison. My Marich see this, they're describing what's going to happen. But you plant it in one place and it grows. Then you cut it, and you move it someplace else, and you replant it, and it grows, and then you get sweet grapes, and you get good wine. In other words, you look at these Maimorim, and you see Pashet, through Torah. So the drei Madregas, the Torah, was the Avodah, the Gemilas Chasodim. In the Madrega of Torah, Chazak v'Amatz. In the Madrega of Torah, the Rabbeim are revealing what's Tutzach the Welt. So when you look at the Maimorim, and you see how the Rebbe said, the Rebbe Pashat, the Frierdiker said Maimorim, but the Rebbe's Chasneh, and the Maimorim that the Frierdiker Rebbe said by the Rebbe's Chasneh, the Rebbe repeated, Einmal, Zweimal, Dreimal, Favos, because the Maimorim were pushed the reality of the Messias of the Rebbe. Okay, no hate just a word. L'chaim lebracha. L'chaim lebracha. L'chaim lebracha.
What?
They ran home for Chatzos. 11:30. L'chaim everybody. L'chaim lebracha. Thank you for coming to Chassidus FABRENGEN.
Of course. Especially with you, though.
Hello, everybody does themselves a favor. When you come to Chassidus FABRENGEN, you do yourself a favor. Leibst te helfen, als jij de nachas van de eigen kinderen. Richtige Chassidische nachas. When you sit bij Chassidus FABRENGEN, ha? A pidyon nefesh was met de like. So nachas van de kinderen. Und das Sache bei der Kodesh und Mashiach the King will come.
Okay. That's the big one. That's the big one. You should not stop it.
L'chaim ya habibi.
Oh man, I'm into it. He make you smile.
The answer is I don't know.
No, you know everything. The whole entire Torah. You don't know that. The poor, you tell me that. Not you. You know everything. You mention it in your speech. You mention Rabbi Yoel.
You know it, man. A little bit.
Yes, sure.
Oh. En dit is even. Basics, yeah. All the basics. Yeah.
Every second that you talk. I don't know why. Maybe it's That's even better. Like how you bring my Thank you.
Avram?
What?
Chassidish Nigun, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
If you want to know which type, the type that everyone will sing with you. Avram, nog een. Ja. Afreilige. How does it go?
Hatzilenu.
Hatzilenu no miyadachi miyadachi miyadachi. You know the thing about Yarei Anoichi Oy Soy Ki Yarei Anoichi Oy Soy V'yata Marta Heite Hashem nach Shabbat, on the storm. So you just start by the Rebbe when they made the train, the steam engine. So the Balagals ran out of business. They made this train, the iron horse. So the Balagals didn't have work. So they the same also with the unions. They said they complained, the guilds, they're losing their panasa. Yeah. So Mitzvah Hashem, that's the story. Mitzvah Hashem nach Shabbat. I don't know how holy the niggin is, but Chassidus singing this. Imit Hashem no Shabbos, by the Rebbe sein, mir will nem der Zeilen, wegen dem Eisen im Bahn, och is a Pfeife, mit den Eisen im Kejach, von unten ist lassen, von heben geht Zeilen frem am Meichel, was verhem a Jechel, och is a Pfeife. En ik is, hat ze lady nog. See what the Va'ata. Ki yare yanechi yesei. Yankee Avinu says Ki yare yanechi yesei. You don't understand Ki yare yanechi yesei? No, but it's a tiny. It's a tiny. Va'ata amarte heite. Favos yare yanechi yesei. Du hast gesagt, Va'ata amarte heite veite v'ibach. Favos hab ich made. Nah, the tiny is not. Take away the fear. Why am I afraid? Why am I afraid of Esav? So it's not just a shaila on the sakone, it's a shaila on the pachad. I shouldn't be afraid. I shouldn't be afraid of Esav. The tide is on the pachad. Why am I afraid of Esav?
It's good because Hashem helped him.
So the answer, the Rebbe's answer is, Goin Yankiv. So bei uns in the hint. I'm learning with the boys in yeshiva. It's midnight already, so you can get silly already. I'm learning the Bacham. I teach. I don't know if you know what I do for a living. I go from job to job to job to job to job. I'm running around the whole day. So one of the places teach called Achet Tmimim. So the Bacham are not Chassidish. So you can Baruch Hashem tell the truth. No. You guys are holy rollers. These guys tell the truth the way it is. There's a mice with Reb Marash.
Which one?
Der Marash hat gesagt, aber mir ist nicht da, kann mir Yochas. Der Marash, I have no favorites. Everybody's equal. She said, what are you talking about? The other man goes in, 15 seconds, he's out. The rich guy goes, says 10 minutes. So where are you even? The rich guy gets 10 minutes, the poor guy gets 15 seconds. It's just very simple. The poor guy goes in and says, Rebbe, I'm poor and I'm hungry. And I say, I help him out. The rich guy comes in and says, was machst du? Oh, Baruch Hashem. Takes him 10 minutes to tell me the truth. I tell him just it's the same 15 seconds. But me, it takes longer for the Emmanuel Haemes. That's the nicht punkte der Geschmack. But once I get the truth, it gets the same 15 seconds. What did I want to say? Oh, I'm learning the Bachrim. So it's honest. It's very. Achet Mimim is a special. Yossi, come check it out. It's a very special yeshiva. The program is 2 years. We're working with it for the 5th year. Which does mean?
Yeah, I know that.
They will not again. We push on our space. It's a mamish. It's special. Anyway, but with them, they're not Siddish Bachrim, so I can talk to them often. So I choose my morim. I learned more from the Rebbe, and I choose my morim that.
You're saying we got to water down the.
Not you got to water down. Whatever I gave you, you watered down. There's nothing I can do about it. I couldn't help it. I knew the chatchila it's going to be watered down. I'm Chassidish, so I know better than my mashpia. I'm being a nice guy. I'm letting him think he's the mashpia, but really I'm the mashpia and he's the mushpa, so we got to make it work. But these guys, listen, Rabbi, the shaila is if I'm going to use my phone on Friday night or night. So anyway, so it's very good. It works. So we're learning Chanukah. I started Elul, a Chanukah Maimon. A Maimon of Mesiras Nefesh. I started before this whole inyan. But the nekud of the Maimon is that the Chashmonoim understood that they have to give their lives the Kaddish Shemayim. They didn't fight to win. They couldn't win. It was Rabbi b'yad mi'atim, Tmeim b'yad te'edim, the Shoyim b'yad tzadikim, v'zeidim b'yad eikis. What says in the Siddur is exactly how it was. There's a few kayanim. I once said it in the class, and they made a short out of it. I said to the girls of Besifka, "You're going to marry Bachrim, but they can be Shiv Bachrim. What do they know about fighting? They're going to have flab. They're going to learn a Gemara, Shlaf Shpet. Soldiers, not soldiers. Who are the Koyanim? Who do you think the Koyanach HaKadoshim were? They ate kachim. They ate the whole day. Chatois and Hashames. They shouldn't go. They said they were overweight. They were not in shape. They were not soldiers. Don't help me. Do me a favor. You'll tell me history later. And they went to fight with the mightiest army in the world. The Rabbi b'yad bi'atim, Tmeim b'yad te'edim, Shoyim b'yad tzadikim, v'zeidim b'yad eikis secha. They didn't know they were going to win. They didn't know. They thought they were going to get killed. They made a hachlata for them to starben. That's the story of Chanukah. The Rebbe says in the Sichos that they could have stayed in the hills. And they could have lived there a few years until they would make a bridge to be able to go up to the mountain and fight with them. They came out of Median. They came out of the hills into the valley to start a war. And the Rebbe says there is no market in halacha for that Mesiras Nefesh. The Rambam brings in Yossi and Hilchos 5 madregas of Mesiras Nefesh. The highest madrega of Mesiras Nefesh that's brought in halacha does not say go away from a safe hiding place, come down into a valley, and fight a war which is certain death. There's no such halacha. Nita. It's Hepech halacha. You go ask it up, it has nothing to do with Osir. The Chashmonaim didn't ask. They went. They felt that this is a moment of Mesiras Nefesh. Shas Hashmad. But Shas Hashmad also has a Gbolas. If the Goy comes to you with Shas Hashmad, but you don't have to go to the Goy, you don't have to go to the Goy, you're not allowed to go to the Goy. If you can hide, especially if it's more than 12 months, you're not allowed to risk, you're not allowed to give your life. You could stay in the mountains. If you take them a long time to come and catch you, you're not allowed to go and die today. Let them catch you tomorrow. Even according to the high, the Rebbe says in the Sichos, there's 5 madrigas. You look at Rambam, there's 5 madrigas of Mesiras Nefesh, and Mesiras Nefesh, Akiddush Hashem. What the Chashmonaim did is against any of those. There's no place in the Halacha of what they did. Wait, that's what the Gemara says. L'shon acheres kovim. When the Chashmonaim, like Esther, kavunu l'deiros, kesunu l'deiros. So the Chashmonaim came and they said, let's make it a Yom Tov. And the Sanhedrin said, we're going to make it a Yom Tov suicide. Bring it to Yom Tov, Hepech halacha, you went and you committed suicide. So the word of the Chashmonaim answered, but the Eibush made a ness. And Sanhedrin said, but you didn't ask halachas. And Tanish, you know what you did? And the Chashmonaim said, the Eibush made a ness. So Sanhedrin said, let us think about it. It took him a whole year. Shona acheres kovim. You know, by Chamisha B'Teves, Hey Teves, the Rebbe said, Memches. L'shon acheres kovim. But the Rebbe decided a year later to make it into a Yom Tov. Not Mem Zayin, Memches. The Rebbe said, L'shon. Why? What took a whole year to make a Yom Tov? Because they violated halacha. But the Nakud of the story was that the Chashmonaim understood, Afadem davon gaan great to start. So the Rebbe says in the Maimir that the Eibishter gave them the nest of the Shemen. The nest of the Shemen was not necessary. The nest of the Mechama was necessary. But the nest of the Shemen was not necessary. And we make, the Gemara says, My Chanukah is of Rashi, al Eiz Nes Kavua, of the nest of Shemen. In other words, we make Chanukah on a miracle which was Lamagna, you don't need the nest. What's the Pshat? So it says in Achreinim, there brings the Maimir, the Maramakim is from Achreinim, the Pnei Yeshua, and the Yavitz's father, the Chacham Tzvi, it's not the Rishonim. Lahares, Chiba, the Yisrael, I forgot the Lashon exactly, to show love for the Jewish people. The Jewish people went to Mesiras Nefesh, the Kaddish Shemaim Barabim, and they did it as a princip, and the Eibusha says, I have to show love back, so I'm going to make a nest which is not necessary, because Tumah Hutra B'Tzibah, to Hutra B'Tzibah, they could have maked the Shemen B'Tomah, the whole call was Tomah, there's no problem. The Eibusha made an unnecessary nest to show Chibas Yisrael. That's the Maimir. So we've been FABRENGEN about it. And how does that Maimir apply to now? How does Maimir apply? The problem ain't Yid, this action was so stubborn that the whole world is screaming ceasefire. The whole world is screaming you're killing Palestinians, and we're not. Believe me, no, everybody knows Jews not into killing. The Rebbe said, "Finish. If you'll finish one war, you'll never fight another one." It's so the so-called modern state of Israel, 75 years old, they never finished a single war. Finish. Endik. But to finish a war, you have to be made of steel. The Rebbe, you look Shamir. When I feel Shamir, it's like a baked. You have to be the Rebbe.
Ah, okay.
You have to have a toikef. So one of my boys said this morning in class, Sunday morning is a special program because no one shows up in school. The 5-6 guys that show up on Sunday, especially the Chassidish Bachanim. So one guy says, Rabbi, we need someone who's very smart. I said, no, we need someone who's very stupid. You're not going to win this with Seichel. The minute the Jews start to talk, they lost. You need to go, Ein Yankiv. Gaive. Die ganze Welt kann schreien, was sie darf, man darf endigen. And I want to tell you something about Talmud. I could talk to you honest. I was at the FABRENGEN, so I used to scream about the situation at Yisrael. You must understand that Rebbe was never a politician. If the Rebbe screamed about Yisrael, it was halacha. It was Teda. And we would sound at the FABRENGEN, verschiedene Shir Chavtas, and noch. And the Rebbe would scream, and we would stand the Fabrengen, and we'd say, I don't understand. I can't believe not listening to the Rebbe. I can't believe. So with some old Fed, I sat in the second row. You're Zayda, Rabbi Marlo, all of us, so in the first row where people sat, yeah? There'd be some old guy turn around and say, du folks, ja dem Rebbe, du folks, ja dem Rebbe. You listen to the Rebbe. The Rebbe, what the Rebbe demanded from Yidden who were not frum. The Israeli government is not frum. What the Rebbe was talking about was the Mesiras Nefesh of the Chashmonaim. Not one drop less. To do what the Rebbe said, even now, and then for sure.
We have the boost of the Rebbe.
But you need to be. You need to say, there's an Eibishter, and there's a Torah, and there's an Am Yisrael, and that's it. And it's befedish, not seichel, not smart. The minute you start to talk, you're lost. But you mean the Jews are so smart. The whole thing is upside down. The Jews are supposed to be chacham, we win the wars and we lose the peace. We start to talk. And you see, what the Rebbe was saying to them was, we think, Freie Yidden, it's exactly the same thing. This is Kedushas Am Yisrael, this is Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. The only way this finishes if there's one Jew who says, I have to do what the Torah says, and what the Torah says, it happens to be common sense, unfortunately. Was in the Yet Yisrael, unter der ganze Welt, Jakob verdient es Haar. Und der Welt wird schreien und like impression. Das hat man taken at me.
The Rebbe said,
Mamish.
Say the truth. Say that there's always a gift from the Hashem to the Yidden.
Yeah.
The Rebbe said it will save blood from the Arabs and from the Yidden.
Yeah. But when you're in the government,
we have to wait.
When America schreit, ich gebe dir sehr viel Dollar. Und the church of America, it doesn't look nice. It's not nice. It's not nice. You have to say to America, you're right, it doesn't look nice. We're going to finish. And we're going to kill a lot of people. But in the end, we're going to kill less people. And the Americans say, no, let's give another chance. You did enough killing. We'll kill them tomorrow, Nachamo. To do what the Rebbe said, what the Rebbe screamed all those sichos, required a koyach of Yechidisha B'nefesh. Not one drop less. Mamish Yechidisha B'nefesh. It was an Esoyan Amiti. And it's still an Esoyan Amiti. And Yamid Melech and Beis David, I tell the kids, you think Mashiach is going to come, I was going to love him. Every week, the UN is going to condemn him for another reason. They're going to make it their Hague trials. They're going to put him on trial for crimes against humanity, for crimes against war, and they're going to try him, and they're going to convict him. Or Mashiach wird kachen of the ganze Welt. Wait, but the end of the story is going to be, Abraham, he's going to teach the world. At first, he's a bad guy, he's a tzeiach, he has no rachmanis and little kids, a Haggett mentioned. And then he's going to teach the world what chesed is. Not what good is, not what chesed is. Because it's chesed of Yishmael, and there's chesed of Avraham, and the chesed of Zemis, and the chesed of Al Sheker. You see, this is what we don't realize, how hard it is. I can't believe they didn't listen. So the old man says, I can't believe you don't listen. The Rebbe says before 40 you shouldn't drink mashke. You listen? So what do you want from him? What do you want from Moshe Dayan? I was careful. I was careful. I ruined your life. I ruined your whole Bacher experience.
Rebbe said between 40 and 60 is the best years.
Why?
Until 40 the Rebbe doesn't less. After 60 the Rebbe
the doctor doesn't. Nu look at the Siddish this is Gerlich. I know.
If you have more Hatzlacha, you mean?
They have Hatzlacha to be stupid. Pashit stupid. Actionist. The dumber they are, the better it'll be.
That's right.
The Hamkain Zeichel.
Don't be afraid.
Finished. We need to have a campaign. One word. Finish. End it. Finish. Okay. Right?
ask the question. On Hanukkah, they went because they wanted to take out the main thing of Jews, the bricks and fabric. And when you take the stew, is it good? If you don't bricks, is it good? It's not good. Therefore, Hashem, harvester, had to sell the Tanaim like the Shlichim. With harvester help, they will do it.
The Elam is Tzegangen. L'chaim.
No?
No.
I trust you.
In Montreal, when Rabbi Nissen came.
No.
I remember your father. I remember your father. I trust you.
Say a word. You're Einakul of Rabbi Nissen. He's the Einakul of Rabbi He's the Rabbi over here.
It's a big problem. It's a big element. But Reb Nissen came often to Montreal.
Huh?
Reb Nissen came often to Montreal.
Often.
He came every year. Whenever he came to the Rebbe, he came to Montreal. He had a nephew, Leiber Denberg, was his nephew. And he used to stay in his house. And he used to sleep with his boys. They took turns. So Yossi Denberg, Leiber Denberg, Yossi Denberg, I know Yossi Denberg, he told me, Leiber Denberg is avek to Chveisa. He was 95 when
The
he...
parent was older.
Then who? This is a lot older.
The parent was older.
Zachelt.
And when Reb Nissen came,
Didn't open his mouth.
he didn't open his mouth.
And the Peretz was such a tzir in Montreal. The Peretz, you know, the Peretz avek, and the Rebbe gets Machal Sefer. For them, the Rebbe gets Machal Sefer, I said the Peretz. And Reb Nissen avek nicht geheißen. It's 2 years. When the Peretz passed away, the Rebbe wanted a Sefer. There were a lot of other chassidim who died. The Rebbe didn't ask for a book. The only chassid the Rebbe himself commissioned Heshke Dabrowski to write was Peretz. Because Peretz Machkin, I mean, that's something we don't know. But that's Tachta. Peretz, first of all, Peretz Machkin's was a Tomim. And his Go'oinus was V'havdech Kamoich. His greatness, I mean, this was a Oivid, that when a Mashkal, when Arov, the Peretz, his Go'oinus was Poshet Avos Yisrael. He had a Zachush in Mekar, as I mentioned. He came to Montreal and he went to work. As long as he had a big heart attack in the Chofs. The Peretz Mochkin built the Kehillah of Montreal. Not the Lubavitcher Kehillah. The Fruma Kehillah. You hear from the old-time Montrealers, when they came from the war, there was a brach in a mansion. Every Shabbos, my father told me, Zitz Navaiwe, that was his expression. Zitz Navaiwe until Mincha. Summer, the 6 hours, 7 hours, the Peretz sat down 1 o'clock, he sat till Mincha. And the ganze Stadt is gekommen. Satmer, Bobiv, Vishnitz, the Peretz was sitting, Grinke Gans, Kinga Slav hat mir einmal gesagt, that he was Montreal, and it's a chassidische Chevre, it's a gedacht Bariches. I said, what's mit dir? Ich will gegangen her in Peretz. Ich will gegangen her in Peretz. Peretz Mochkin was a Fabrengen first class. But the Peretz Mochkin did what the Rebbe wanted from every Talmud. When I say Talmud, I mean the first generation. I mean the Lubavitch. You come to a place, a chosid, a fmachan, a sviv. A lot of the Tmimim were bitter, and they were angry, and they felt like no one's interested. There's a lot from the Rebbe, Vidik Rebbe, to Avramele. Avramele Plukta was a Rav in Baltimore. Avramele was a big chosed. Avramele Axelrod. He was a big Rav. And the Vidik Rebbe writes to him, make a shir Chassidus. And he writes to Vidik Rebbe, no one's interested. So Vidik Rebbe says, one person you can find. Make a shir. This was Peretz. Peretz Mochkin, for the 25 years of Montreal, created around himself an avir that later became all the Kehillas, not just Lubavitch, Satmar. I don't know what other cities in Montreal, they all came to Peretz. They came to Peretz, they sat by Peretz, and Peretz was Vadam. And the Rebbe liked Peretz. The Rebbe once told someone, Peretz Mochkin is Alta Famir. Und folgt. Und folgt.
Rabbi Miguel was there.
Und folgt.
He said he was the Galilee.
You have a big Chabad and could can look in Montreal, Rambam.
You were able to hear the Rebbe in
Rabbi
the room
Mendel
saying loud.
Raskin.
Peretz Mochkin.
Who?
Rabbi Mendel Raskin, the son of Rabbi Yehuda Lev Raskin.
They folgt with that kinner, like a bittel. Whatever he does. The Rebbe liked Peretz. And the Peretz had the Reches of Nissen. The Nissen used to come for Leiber Denberg. So Yossi Denberg told me that he once said to his father, Tata, was hast du nicht kein Bord? So his father said to him, was fragst du bei mir nicht, was ich leg zu film? You wonder where my beard is? You should ask me why I put on film. Leiber Denberg's father was a Tomim.
Shia.
Shia Denberg. Shia Denberg was Shezan Hayim in Folakan Sefer, Ayabaki B'Shas. He died in the war. He died Tafshin Gimel from hunger. But Leiber Denberg was not with his father, because his father was being watched by the KGB, so he was being raised by an uncle. His uncle was a Nissen, his mother was a Nissen sister, but the Nissen's brothers were communists. Shia Denberg did not go up from. Shia Denberg got a telegram that his father died,
No.
and he went to shul. You gotta tell him.
Shai Denberg,
Beim Vetter.
ich gewinne Nissens Weibs Bruder.
Ja. Nein, Sohn! Nissens Schwester's Sohn.
No, Shai's Schwester, ich gewinne Nissens Weib.
Shai's Weib gewesen Nissens Schwester. Bitte, Henje.
No.
Yes, I'm a misbach.
Ja, du bist Nissens eine
Yes. The Nissens sister, was Shai Denberg.
Masche, ich gewinne was. A Denberg.
Masche Raski.
Ja?
Yes, Masche Raski. Shai's wife was a Nemenov. The Shvemana was not a man of many words.
Du sagst Masche nicht mehr a Denberg?
No, she was asking. Shai Denberg's wife, Sarah Gansberg's Bubba, Sarah Lieber's Bubba was Shai, but she hastened Masha. Sie gehasten ite Henje. The Shvet me gesagt, sie gewinnt.
Ite Henje is gewinnt wer?
No, what was his? Shai Denberg's wife's name was. Ite Henje was somebody else. Shai Denberg's wife is Levin. But
yeah, nur das meine, nur Levin's Weib beginning to say.
So, but Shai Denberg's wife.
The Ite Henje.
Forgot her name, but she did. She was Nissen's sister, but Nissen's brothers were communists, and Shai was like a hard of it. He was in college. He was a big boy, and he got to tell him that his father died. He says he doesn't know why. He went to Shulzat Kaddish. He wasn't frum. It's interesting. Yossi Denberg's wife is Kleinman. Zalman Kleinman. Both these men grew up in the worst time. They were Yisayimim. They were orphans. And Yossi Denberg and his wife, their fathers were both frum, and they had every reason not to be frum. They had every reason not to be frum. So Yossi Denberg went to 770, and he said, I asked my Shved, Zalman Kleinman, the artist. You don't remember Zalman Kleinman? He was a very... Zalman Kleinman in 770 would sit with a Gemara. When the Rebbe bring downstairs, he would sit upstairs with a Gemara.
Only Simcha Seder, not other times.
Always with a Gemara.
I never saw.
Always with a Gemara.
Simcha Seder.
Zalman Kleinman hated the noise. Zalman Kleinman would come Shabbos. So he asked his Shved, how did you stay frum? You know the story of Zalman Kleinman? It's a B'shugah Nemaisa. Zalman Kleinman and his sister, Mrs. Bart,
His niece. Oh,
his mother, they were orphans. They were Yisayimim, and they were put into an orphanage. Their sister, I think, was Shmena Batuma's wife, Shmena Sasonkin's wife.
I mean, their aunt. They were younger.
Their mother was Shmena Batuma's Shvegerin. Their mother was a sister of Mrs. Basonkin. And they had made a deal years earlier that if one of them would pass away, the other would look after their children. Shmera Batum was in Lemberg. Yes. Was in Lemberg. They were on the way out of Russia. They were leaving Russia with Ashalonim. And she comes to him in a dream and says, my children are Beit HaYisayim. So Shmera Batum got on the train. He went to Siberia and he found them and he claimed them as relatives. He took them to Lemberg and took them out of Russia with him, two of them. So Yossi Denberg said, I asked my Shved, how'd you stay frum? You know what he told me? Listen to this. Keiner hat uns nicht gesagt kein Wort. No one said a word. They came from Russia. The Chassidim were radicals. The Nissen was such an angry guy. The Nissen criticized. I gave him a shiur this morning in 770. You know what came to my shiur? Mrs. Brod. My brother's 80. Chatzka's wife. Next to Chatzka's wife, she's a chick, a young lady.
Bible.
She's got to be 95, minimum. She comes every Sunday. She comes to the wagon. She comes to the Chatzka's wife. She got married, Tavshin Ches. Chatzkel Brod never forgot the trauma. When he got married, he didn't have a new outfit. So he took his baguette, his outfit, he turned it inside out. And the tailor made it, the inside became the outside, and the outside. And by his chasana, Reb Nisna Tamoiz Geret bawled him out. I'm sitting in the bathroom today, I'm thinking of it. as Magushim. A Jew came from that world, hot garnished, and this is upset at him. What did he have? He didn't get a new outfit. He pushed his old schmatis. He turned them inside out, and the is bowling him out. You understand? Yeah, he balabatish. But when it came to these guys, these kids, Shia Denberg, Salman Kleiman, the Asamim, they didn't say one word. None of them. Nish Kavod. He said, you know where we're from? Because no one said a word to us. Some Gahat Seichel.
I love that one.
Some Gahat Seichel. No one said a word. Nishka Reb Nissen, das ist doch kein Wort. Sie gewinnen Yeshemim, sind zerbrochene Kinder, sind ausgewachsen nicht früh. Sie kommen von Russland, sie gewinnen in Yeshiva. They let them alone. Sie haben gehalten verstanden. Reb Nissen wird eine angestrengte Rede. Reb Nissen was such a serious. I have a neighbor, Baruch Bickman. He's still angry at Reb Nissen for something that happened with 70 Jahre früher. Where's the Meise? The Baruch, I have my neighbor, Baruch Bickman. He tells the story, he lives it over like it happened yesterday. It's mamish and achzorius. It's push, it's so cruel. Yeah. His parents, he came from Russia with his parents. Tata Mame. Und gewinnt in Yeshiva, hat gesagt, Reb Nissen, ich will gehen nach Heim. Every brach tells a story, he tells a story every time. Ich will gehen nach Heim. Ich will gehen nach Heim? Teim Chetzmimim ist dein Heim. Der Chetzmimim ist der Tate, Teim Chetzmimim ist der Mame. So he says to Reb Nissen, he says, ich will gehen zu Tata Mame. He says, du hast mir gesagt, ich will gehen zu Tata Mame, wollte ich gelost. Du willst gehen nach Heim, los ich dir nicht. Und nicht gelost. It's mamish delicious. I'm telling you it's delicious. I'm telling you it's delicious. It's my Zayde. I'm telling you it's delicious. Baruch is still angry. When he tells the story now, he gets upset all over again. When it came to these guys, they didn't say a word. He just covered. Rabbi
Heller says the story. Rabbi Nissen said, "Wer der ich und was ist der will?"
I know, but he was wrong. He was Chaskel brought turned the shmata inside out that Rabbi Nissen could have told him. You know, Alan Zakan told my father that he left Russia early. When they became the opportunity to leave Russia, they didn't know if they should go or not. Anash. That's the Friedrich Rebbe. And there's a whole, it's a very painful parasha, what the minor was and how the minor came. The people hate each other. Alan Zakan was a bocher. He decided he's leaving, finished. There was opportunity to take Pelish Papir again, and the Rushta were going to track was not the Rebbe. I'm going. So he left. So he went to all the Alter Chassidim to say goodbye. And each one gave him a speech. Rabbi Solneach, and Rabbi Nissen, and Der, and Jener. Es werden dort nach Goyis, wenn die gar nicht bleiben. He came to Yisrael Nevler. My father Zayde. So he got up and he gave him a kiss. Vergesundheit. He never forgot till the day he died. Vergesundheit. Tisa b'shalom. He didn't lecture him that you're going to become frei. Vergesundheit.
But he brought him b'tshuva, yeah?
But if anybody has any tiny to any Yid, you can look up there.
He said the Mashiach will still make tshuva to people that they're not going to come to tshuva. He will continue to work. But we have to do the status.
I have a friend of mine who says, "Weißt du was groß geht noch an, weil der Ebisch ist ein Baltei." I'll let you give it. We'll redeem it with the Freiliche Dinge, but the Valley give us a Hasidish Ding. Thank you for coming. So, Davis, when are you getting married? Is it the boys' market? What's with you?
My Rav, my best Rav, then he had a big and whenever you have similar, not yet. I have the immunity like
I told someone else tonight, maybe they could talk to God because he doesn't listen to me. That's what I'm hoping.
May I share my phone number to you and send me, like, you know, whenever you do, if I bring it and then send me a text? Yes. Here's my phone number. You give me yours. You have it. Give me the phone. I have to get
and sleep with the boys. He stayed by Shaya Denberg, with the boys. So they took turns. Every time he came, he slept with another boy. This is not very geschlafen. This was a real Jew. So Yossi Denberg told us a story. He tells the story all the time. That it was his turn. So Reb Nissen was his roommate. So at some point, they were both in the bedroom at the same time. So he said to Reb Nissen, that everybody says that you're a Beinani. So he asked, is it emes? He said, if Nissen walked around the whole day, he was worried about it. He was not much worried about it. He used to say, I say, that's not a Beinani. If Nissen Nemenov was concerned about one Aveda, it really was an issue with him. It was a big problem, you understand? To his little boy, he was 11 or 12 years old, says to Reb Nissen, are you a Beinani? So Nissen doesn't answer him. But Reb Nissen, you're a man, hello! Pesach. You should know that people notice that you're by the Fabrengen. You could go, I don't mean to keep you. But you should know that you should come to Fabrengen, and you should bring it home, and you should be a chsidische yid, and you have a chsidische yid to notice him. You should just know that people know that you came to Fabrengen, and it's good. You should have a lot of nachas from your children, and Panasa Bar Chove, and all the brachas, maybe Tev Nere Vadigla. Business, like the Rebbe says, a Fabrengen doesn't end. You just take a break till the next one.
Taking a break, exactly.
Till the next Kummen Chsidische Fabrengen.
Get schlafen, dann kommt sich Chsidis.
Okay, very good. Okay, good. Yashikeh. A gute Nacht. A gute Nacht. Besides Tevis. So one's the upper one, the Shver, my Shver, he never said sleeping. Never said.
Ruven Dunin said, Chasidu olech lishon. Lishon, afilu sha'ah. אבל לנוח אפילו 8 שעות.
My Shver never said schlafen. Upper one, my Shver. Anyway, so, what was I telling you? I was telling you. So Yossi Denberg said to him, listen. So this is du kannst an a Beinani.
What?
Du kannst an. He said to him, he was a kid of 11 years old. Du kannst an a Beinani.
Also be a Beinani.
He says to him, how? He says, I'm asking you a question. And this is to him in Yiddish. For 60 seconds, kannst kontrollieren deine Machshava? You think for 60 seconds you control your thought? So he says, yeah. So he told Reb Nissen what he would do for 60 seconds to keep his mind occupied.
Maisa first.
Huh?
He said Maisa first.
He went first to Maisa, Dibur, and then to Machshava.
Okay, I remember.
Easiest starters, yeah.
Bottom I said, and what about Dibur? He said, Dibur, I just won't speak. If I don't speak, I can't say anything wrong. Und was mit Maise? So Yossi said to him, ich will sitzen auf der Hand. I'll sit on my, ich will sitzen auf der Hand. Ich will nicht kennen, Lindiken. So Nissen told him, no, so do it. Do it. So he said, okay, so I did it for 60 seconds. He said, no, bist du a Beinani? He's a big marketer, Yossi Denberg. And we had a simcha together. We sat together 70 years ago. Not so many years ago. And he says every day, he takes 60 seconds. Now, to this day. And he's a Beinani. He said, now he does it twice a day, once in the morning. For 60 seconds, he's careful. In other words, Reb Nissen from Gepeilt. I heard from, I forgot who, that Reb Mendel Marozov, you remember Mendel Marozov? He lived over 100 years. Reb Mendel Marozov was Chonya's son. Chonya's a kind. He was not a Pashta person. He was a big lad. Mendel Marozov was not a Pashta Yid. I have a friend, Mendy Blau. His father was not well. They live on the same block. So he couldn't go to 770 for Kedav and They had a minion in the house by Mendel. Mendel was 30 years his senior, you understand? And Mendel said Shabbos, every Shabbos Kiddush on 6 and 9 Kiddush. Ungebacht Litzonis. He says, Bahir Rosh Hashanah, 48 Shal Geveit. The Rosh Hashanah, he said, I didn't understand. He's always making jokes. Reb Marazov was a bigger, that's like Mendel. When you got the two Mendels together in Old Teda, it was flop. Mendel Marazov, Mendel Fotifas was special, the two of them. You were under the floor. You were under the table laughing. When he was Chanya's a kind. So somebody asked him, someone asked Mendel Marazov, wie gewinnt in Russland? In was haben sie gekocht? In Jani Avoide. So Mendel Marazov said, Machshov Dibur Maisa. It's nicht gekochen in Himmel. In other words, Hege Madreges, he grew up in Yemei Hadamim. He grew up in the blood years, in the 30s. But there was Temche Tmimim. Was hat man verbracht? Was hat man gerät? Was hat in der Bochum gemacht von sich? Machshov Dibur Maisa. To be careful, that's what he said. We are into bigger stuff, you know, we're into Atzilus and Ein Sof and lifting that Tzimtzum. But he says, it's shaykhs to us also. We live in a different world. He was here before, Shagalov, Menachem. So I met him in the street, and he insulted me, and I told him, if you don't give an insult, what did you mean with you? You're becoming a big machet. So what do you consider? As I told him, success is I make a lot of money. So he gave me a whole speech. Anyway, then after we finished insulting each other, so he was going this way and I was going this way. So he says to me, Yisrael never did. I'm as Einich Yisrael never. I said, Yisrael never wouldn't last 5 minutes in America. Why? America is not made for these people. Only the Rebbe. Only the Rebbe. It's true. Only the Rebbe figured out, created you and me who could serve the Eibishter. America is it's an undeveloped. But it's not only Chasadim. It looks like Chasadim. Aviv vayt zayim from Beinani. But Eidach, we're bringing Mashiach. It's not only Chasadim, it's a mile also. But the Jews in that generation, they couldn't last 5 minutes in this. They couldn't last 5 minutes. Either they would be eaten up by it, or they'd be so depressed they wouldn't know what to do with themselves.
America wouldn't last 5 minutes with them.
No.